Wonderful, cloudy New York spring day. I'm Christine Souders. I'm the Associate Dean for Admission and Financial Aid, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome all of you here to the Journalism School to New York City. We've got quite a lot of things planned for you, both today and tomorrow, and so we're looking forward to sharing lots and lots of information with you about the journalism school, to giving you opportunities to ask as many questions as you have about whatever you have in your mind, and you'll have the opportunity to talk with faculty, with current students, with alumni, with deans, with those of us in the admissions and financial aid offices. And so we're just really, really delighted to have all of you here. I wanted to give you a little bit of information about yourselves, but first of all, if I could see a show of hands, how many of you are here because you are going to be in the full-time Master of Science course? All right. And how about part-timers? Do I have some part-timers among you? Great. Do I have any MA students here? Wonderful. How about, do I have any dual degree with computer science? Did any of my dual degree students make it? Not yet. There will be more people who will be joining us tomorrow. So, and do I have any PhD students in the audience? No. All right. The PhD students should be upstairs right now, so I just wanted to double check. I wanted to let you know that in the MS group, you come from 33 different states and the District of Columbia. 32% of the class is international, representing 41 different countries. The international countries, the largest groups come from India, China, the United Kingdom, Pakistan, Canada, and Mexico. The top sending states are New York, not surprising, California, New Jersey, Texas, Virginia, Florida, and Connecticut. This year, 75% of the MS students are women, 25% are men. In the MA group, 31% are men, 69% are women, and 70% come from outside the United States, representing 22 different countries. We have 11 students who have been admitted to the dual degree program with computer science. Also, 5 women, 6 men, and coming, there are 6 international students in that group as well. So I think that you can see that there is a very wide diversity of, there are many countries represented, many different states. Among US students who have reported to us, more than 40% of the group have identified as African American, Asian, Latino, Native American, and/or Pacific Islanders. So you can see that you're coming from many different places, you're coming from many different backgrounds, nationalities, cultures, and that's one of the things that's really important to us here at the Journalism School. Journalism, of course, covers many, many different kinds of stories, and we are very eager to have students here at the Journalism School who will be covering those stories. I also would like to say hello. We're running a live stream for those of you who are here at the Journalism School. We're also running a live stream so that people who are not here are able to join us. So I would like to welcome all of those who are on the live stream. And just to let you know that if you have questions also, my colleague Taryn Almanzar is running the live stream chat. Feel free to send her any questions that you have. We'll be glad to answer those. and also have them sent up to the podium so that you'll all be represented here as well. I am going to stop talking because, as you can hear, I have no voice. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Ernest Sotomayor, our Dean of Students and Director of Latin America Programs, who is also going to talk with you. Ernest.
Hello, good afternoon. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, that'll pass. Welcome to New York City, to Columbia University, and to the Graduate School of Journalism. We are really pleased to finally have you here, and those of you on our live stream, we miss having you here, but we look forward to meeting you soon as well. Some of you have come from very far away, like China, Denmark, Puerto Rico's in the room, Belgium, United Kingdom, the Bahamas, Canada, and states like California, Michigan, Florida, Illinois, Washington, and Oregon. And this is a weekend during which you should really practice the very elements of superb reporting. And that is to ask good, hard, challenging questions, meet the people who will be your classmates, to get all the information you possibly can about Columbia, to test some of your own ideas about us and about yourself so you can make a very thoughtful decision about what you do in this program and going into the future. You've chosen really a great moment to be in journalism, and if you're uncertain about the future of this profession, let me reassure you that it is in fact very vibrant today, and it will remain so for long after we're all gone. It will be different. It changes every day, every hour. It will evolve as it always has, and that's going to keep it exciting. And that will mean that you will be prepared. You will want to be prepared as much as possible for how it changes. These shifts in journalism are what is requiring us all the time to keep changing how we prepare our students for this profession. And you know, many of those challenges come from the way the audiences are always changing how they consume news, and how the people who are coming into this profession, you, are always changing. You represent both, actually. You are consumers of news, but you are also the people who will be out gathering it and finding ways, some not yet even discovered, of distributing that into the future. The journalism school was opened in 1912 by that guy who's hidden behind the screen there, the Hungarian immigrant Joseph Pulitzer. And a century later, we still stand firm that the most important way to prepare you begins with facts, because they take journalism far beyond what anything else you'll find that's published or broadcast or streamed. They aren't always so easy to find, and that's why in this program, everything revolves around reporting, 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 and reporting. No one's ever a great writer unless they have great words that they find, great facts they use upon which to build that narrative. No one's a good video journalist or a video journalist at all unless their images convey an image, convey a cohesive story. Writing code and algorithms may mean that you're good at math, maybe a great computer scientist, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you know what's relevant to the story, which data really tells the story that you need to convey to the readers. Being a professional journalist who does the job right, regardless of the platform or where you're working or the subject or location, takes much more thought and skill than ever before. Broadcasting is no longer just what you see in the 6 or 11 o'clock broadcast, but what you see on Periscope, and Vine, and Facebook Live, Vice, or now this. Knowing how to measure your audiences, to interact with them, to make them a good reporting source, to get them to keep coming back to you despite all the choices that they have, is no longer optional. It is really a survival skill in any newsroom today. Long-form narrative journalism, and I know there are many of you who want to practice that. It's far more complicated than when you would just type up your manuscript and send it to Vanity Fair with a stamped self-addressed envelope. The big round table, long reads, the atavists are increasingly seeking stories that have multimedia components to them. The New Yorker's got a video unit. They do podcasts. On Saturday afternoon, their editor, David Remnick, does a talk show on public radio. Who would have thought? And you know, they've got a magazine that is still print on paper and ink that you can get in the mail. Data and computational journalism will be part of the instruction for everyone, recognizing the critical role of data in today's journalism and the need to learn how to acquire it, interrogate it, analyze it, and use it to support your reporting. And that word reporting keeps coming up and up and up. It's the spine of so much watchdog journalism today, so you should know it. We get the superfast evolution of the internet, which allowed the explosive creation of countless digital media companies, and we now see a new generation being created, some by our own graduates, some that started early in the first iterations, giving way and being replaced by new ones. And that's where our graduates and many of you will come into the picture. Without question, the very best of those companies, and old legacy ones as well, are going to be seeking the very best qualified journalists, the ones with extraordinary skills that they need to hire. You can find many of these skills on the job, as they say, but many of our students and graduates will tell you that they accelerated their careers by years after studying here, and that's what we hope to happen to you. Those of you who have been accepted into specializations, data journalism, to documentary filmmaking, or investigative reporting, and all the rest of you, regardless of which program you're in, will concentrate on reporting. But we'll build on a layer of additional skills far beyond that. You'll learn a lot about deep research techniques, source development, interviewing, specialty reporting in many different subjects like health, science, international journalism, sports, crowdsourcing, new business models, and those shifts in the paradigm of journalism, ethics, and global law. We hope that you reviewed our fall and our spring curricula, because that's going to give you a very good idea about where you might want to go as you make your way through Columbia Journalism School. And you know, all this makes you part of a very dynamic and very magnificent journalistic ecosystem. 5 of our students were among the 350 journalists worldwide who contributed reporting and data analysis in the past few months for the explosive special report, the Panama Papers, which was just released this past week. Columbia was the only US-based journalism school that was chosen to participate in this unprecedented global journalistic effort. You can make whatever you want from that. You become part of a very powerful alumni network, 12,000 graduates working worldwide, all like you, trained and taught by a faculty that's best known and best qualified of anywhere, having reported, written, and edited from literally every continent, on every platform, and every subject. You'll hear more tomorrow from the Director of Career Development. But coming here gives you access to what we think is the most effective career services team and regiment at any journalism school. Last weekend in Lerner Hall, right across the walk, we held the largest career expo in the world, the biggest one in school history. We had 150 plus companies that sent more than 325 recruiters here to conduct more than 4,000 interviews with our students over the course of Saturday. We've shared a lot of the information with you, and you've got the list of the companies that came. And you know, we still had a dozen companies on a waiting list that we couldn't accommodate. This year alone, Career Development held more than 60 sessions, workshops, panels, recorder visits, and training sessions for students to prepare them for seeking employment. And you know, speaking of that alumni network, 85 of the recruiters who were at the Career Expo last week were graduates who came back to meet our students and recruit them to their companies. Think about that. That's more than many of the schools in this country have in their career affairs altogether. You also will join a community, as you heard Dean Souders talk a moment ago, that is going to be very international. This year alone, we have about 40% of our students coming from international grounds. That guarantees that you will learn about the cultures, the languages, the journalism, and the people who've come from more than 36 nations. That is on top of the students who come to us from many different states throughout the United States, each with their own backgrounds. That only enriches you as a journalist, widening your perspectives, introducing you to people who will become friends and colleagues for life, who in years to come will be willing to help you in a lot of different ways. And sometimes even they'll provide a couch where you can crash on as you're passing through their cities. That happens a lot too. Without doubt, we will set the bar high for you, and you will be expected to work very hard here. And just how much beyond that you raise your game will be entirely up to you. It always will be. During this weekend, students and graduates will speak about how demanding and stressful the program is, how they were instantly immersed into the learning curve, how sometimes they felt like they couldn't make it. But they'll talk about how fast they came to understand the demands of the profession, its values, how far it could take them, how far they've come themselves, and what they've accomplished. Their commentary isn't meant to frighten you away, but to prepare you for what should be a year that changes your life. And if we all do this right, changes the lives of the people who will view, read, and listen to the story that you're going to produce. That's our goal, and we hope it's your goal. We look forward to having you and greatly appreciate that you want to make Columbia a part of your life. Enjoy this weekend, ask lots of questions, have a wonderful evening meeting your future classmates. But hey, don't get too wild tonight. We've got a lot on tap for you tomorrow, and we don't bail anyone out of jail. Thank you for being here, and now we're going to proceed with the rest of our program. Thank you so much. I teach here occasionally, and I also sweep occasionally and wash dishes.
Okay, before we get started with our faculty panel, we're waiting for two other people. I wanted to just run through the rest of today's program with you. We are going to do curriculum breakouts now. David is taking people to the MA curriculum breakout. Okay, my colleague Edwin Isaac, and actually, let me just introduce you to some people who are here in the room so that you'll know who they are. First of all, somebody who most of you know either from having spoken with him or emailed with him, David Hooker, who is our office manager and makes sure that we are all in the right place at the right time while maintaining contacts with all of you. My colleague Taryn Almanzar in the very back, who is running the live stream running the live stream chat right now. Taryn is our director of financial aid and admissions. My colleague Brett Sion in the very back, whom many of you met as you came in today. Brett is our associate director of admission and financial aid. Edwin Isaac, who is in the very back. Edwin is our assistant director for financial aid and admission, and I know many of you have corresponded with him already, and will be corresponding further with him as well. I'd also like to introduce you to Amy Reinhardt. Amy, also in the back, is our web editor. She's also busily tweeting and Instagramming and all sorts of things. I know that she has been in touch with you on the New Student Facebook page to get your Twitter handles. So we're all of us very happy that you're here. We're going now to start with the next part of the program. The MA students, I'd like you all to go with Edwin. He is going to take you down to the Stabile Student Center, where we'll have people who can talk with you very specifically about the Master of Arts curriculum. The MS students will stay here. The full-time students, I should say, will stay here. The MS part-time students also here in this room. And while the others are leaving, I just want to run through the rest of the evening. We'll have the curriculum breakouts, and then at 4:40, we'll have student panels joining us in each of these areas. At 5:30 will be the first of our financial aid, financing your education workshops. And then by the time that you all really, really need a break, at 6:45, we will all go over to Amity Hall, and I believe you've all got the address there. It is 982 Amsterdam Avenue. It's about a 10-minute walk from the journalism school, where we'll have a reception for you. And that will run until 8:30, and then at 8:30, our current students will take you out for a night on the town. You've got that information in your programs. So, any questions about any of that before I start with our faculty panel here? Okay. Then I would like to introduce our faculty who are here today. Associate Dean Laura Muha, who also teaches reporting, who teaches documentary courses, many different kinds of things. Dean Ernest Sotomayor, our Dean of Students, as I said, Director of Latin American Affairs, and Professor, as you can see, wears many, many hats. Elena Cabral, Professor Cabral, is the director of the part-time program. And she is also a member of the career services staff, as well as a member of the teaching faculty. And then on the other side, Professor Bill Gruskin, our former Dean for Academic Affairs, professor, and now is also working at Bloomberg News. So I'm going to start with the faculty, and Laura, I'm going to have you go ahead and start about the MS program and curriculum.
Okay. Well, my instructions were to talk about why this is an exciting time to be a journalist and also about the curriculum. And when they said, talk about why this is an exciting time to be a journalist, I thought, but it's always an exciting time to be a journalist because this is, frankly, a really exciting profession. I don't think that there are very many things you could do that have this much variety, this much exposure to many different people and places and issues, and just the opportunity to make a huge difference in the world if you so desire. I fell into it years ago because I was a junior in college, and my father was a chemistry professor who had known since he was 8 years old what he wanted to do, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it was the May of my junior year of college, and I was sitting there thinking that he was going to make my life that summer a living hell if I didn't come up with a plan. So I thought, well, journalism would expose me to a lot of different things, and I'm told that I'm a good writer, and I have no desire to be a starving writer in a garret, so maybe I'll get a job with a newspaper. And I walked up to the town newspaper and said to the editor, "Hi, I want to be a journalist, and can I carry coffee cups for you if I can just see what goes on around here?" And he said that he would go me one better. He later told me he was absolutely flabbergasted, but to get rid of me, he told me he would go me one better, and that if I would go home and get a job at a weekly paper over the summer, he would hire me when I came back to school. And lo and behold, I actually did that. And my very first week on the job at that weekly paper, it became absolutely clear to me that this was what I wanted to do with my life, that it wasn't going to be a vehicle to something else that was my real profession, that this was my real profession. I've been at the J School almost 20 years now, the past 8 years in this role as Associate Academic Dean, and I hope that I'm still doing my part to contribute to the profession by working here on curriculum development, and we also oversee the faculty. It is an interesting and exciting time to be here because we're planning a curriculum to teach students what they need to know to go into a profession where the employers aren't entirely sure what they need. And so there's lots of discussion around here, and it always comes back to the same thing, which is reporting. And I won't belabor the point because Ernest already drove that home, but that's the one thing that never changes. And so that is, no matter what medium you want to go into, that is what we're going to push you to go deeper and broader and to really develop your skill set here. I'm sure that one of the biggest questions you guys have is, well, okay, if I come here, what is my year going to look like? And we have a little, I mapped it out for you guys. So the semester starts in August, and everyone comes, and that whole first month you're spending on the fundamentals of reporting and also getting some digital training, some photo training, some visual training. We're going to probably do a little mobile video this year and some audio. And it lays the foundation for the rest of your time here. So it's a pretty intense month. You're in and out of the building. There's class time, there's street reporting time, there are some group activities. We try to keep sort of the big, you all sit there in the room and we talk at you to a minimum, but there's a little bit of that.
I'll just interject for 2 seconds. For those of you who are part-time students, all of that will start in May.
Yes, and it'll be, Elena will talk to you a little bit. It's paced out a little bit differently, but you are getting all of the same elements. So that's August. And then you move into the fall semester, which we actually have broken up into 2 mini semesters. And I guess you could think of the first half of the semester as the focus is on information gathering. How do reporters get information? You know, how do you know what you're looking for? Where do you get it? How do you get it? And how do you think about it? You will be doing some writing, you'll probably be doing some visual stuff, but the emphasis isn't on, you know, how do I write a perfectly crafted for 1,500 word story or put together a beautiful, you know, minute-and-a-half web video. It's how do I get this information, how do I think about it, and what do I do with it? I have that shown up there as 4 days a week. It's not 4 classroom days a week. Think of this as it's going to take up, its footprint will take up 4 days of your time. There's a full classroom day in which you're workshopping stories, you may be talking to guests, the guest speakers may come in, you'll be pitching story ideas, you'll be talking about journalism issues, you may be doing some computer lab exercises, and you'll also have some assignments. So in that 4 days, there's street reporting time built in. And Friday of every week during the fall, there's you'll have what we informally around here call the Friday 4-pack. Officially in the registrar spreadsheet, it's called Journalism Essentials. And those are 4 short, 7-week, 1-credit classes. You'll take 2 at a time. You'll take journalism history, journalism ethics, journalism law, and then the business of journalism, which looks at the changing business models that are affecting the profession. These classes are small classes. A 16-student class would actually be a pretty big class here. Most of them 14 to 16. The classes that will be bigger are those Friday classes. They are typically about 50 students apiece. And the other thing that you will have on Fridays are meetings with your master's project advisors. Everybody at the school does a capstone project. I mean, all master's programs have capstone projects. Ours takes the form of a long-form reported piece, whether that's print, whether that's, you know, a combination of video and print or audio. There are a number of options. And you'll be working on it one-on-one with an advisor. So you begin that in the fall, you'll finish it up in the spring. So that's the first half of the fall semester. Then in November and December, the focus shifts from how do reporters get information to essentially, it's more presenting information for an audience, I mean, you are still reporting, you're still using those muscles, but now you're starting to think about, okay, how do you present to audiences in different mediums? The emphasis is more on the medium. Everybody here will take a 7-week writing course, because whether you want to be a broadcast journalist or a long-form print person or a data journalist, everybody really needs to know how to clearly express themselves in writing. So you'll take a 7-week writing module, and then you'll have a second class. And that class, you're going to choose whether in the fall you want to take, working from the bottom up, research methods for journalists, which is it's a class that's going to look at what's an expert? How do you evaluate an expert? Like beyond Google, how do you do deep dives? There'll be public records and some data, some investigative tools, if you will. So you might want to take that in the fall. If you don't take it in the fall, you'll take it in the spring. Or you have an option of taking one of these 4 classes. All students here at the school have to take a 3-credit class that we put in a broad category called image and sound. But more specifically, you can take an audio class, you can take a data class, you can take a photojournalism class, or you can take a video class. And the amount of time for those classes, the writing class, as you can see, is about 3 hours a week. The research methods, it's the same. It's about 3 hours of classroom time a week. You'll have assignments for both. If you take one of the image and sound modules, it's going to depend classroom time on which one you take. Photo is about a half a day a week. Data is about a half a day a week. Photojournalism, I guess I said audio is the better part of a day, and video is absolutely a full day all week. And then, so that's the footprint of your Monday through Friday. 2 classes, varying amounts of time. There's a lot of reporting time built in there to execute your assignments. And then on Fridays, once again, you're finishing up whichever 2 journalism essentials you didn't take in the first half of the semester, you'll take in the second half. And you'll continue the work on your master's project. And then in the spring, if you think of the fall as a time when you're getting your requirements out of the way, if you're interested in subject areas, you do have an opportunity to do a little bit of it in the fall, because a lot of our writing modules revolve around subject areas like if you want to write about business, there's a business writing module. But the emphasis is on writing more than on business. It's just that you're writing about business, but it's using business as a lens to talk about what's a lead, what's a nut graph, how do you structure a written story. There's one other writing module I should mention before we move on to the spring. We have a writing for the ear module, which is for those of you who are interested in going into broadcast, whether video or audio. That's specifically focusing on how do you write for someone who will be listening to your story as opposed to reading it. And it's actually somewhat different. It's much more linear than writing for somebody who'll be reading it. You can't have a lot of clauses when you're writing for the ear. So there's that option for those of you who are thinking, I wanted to go into business, into broadcast, I didn't know I was going to have to write. Okay. So moving on to the spring semester, this is where you can really begin to specialize and to dive into what interests you the most. We have a huge range of spring classes, and those are available. I don't know whether you sent out the link, but we can easily make the link available to you so that you can see what we offered this year. The classes are mostly the same from one year to the next, but they'll change a little bit because a faculty member might go on sabbatical, or we might have somebody as a visiting faculty member with a particular area of expertise, or for instance, this year we're offering a campaign finance class, which next year after the election isn't as relevant. So it'll change a little bit. But there's a huge number of subject area classes, business, covering religion, education, environment, health. There are a number of investigative classes, there are data classes, there are data visualization classes, there's a design class, there's a radio workshop that does a weekly broadcast, there are video newsroom classes, which are for those of you who might be interested in TV reporting, and those students are going out, with their cameras week after week and turning around stories quite quickly, so you get a lot of practice in that. You're taking 2 of those. You're finishing up your master's project, which for most students is the 3rd draft. You're handing in 3 drafts. The 3rd draft and final draft is usually comes in the 3rd week of March. And then you are also taking whichever module you didn't take in the fall. So if you didn't take research methods in the fall because you took a video class, you'll take it now. If you took the video class in the fall, you'll take research methods in the spring. And we'll send out pretty precise instructions on the things you should consider when deciding which you want to take. If you really want a career in video, then you're going to want to take a lot of video in the spring. You should do that in the fall. If you think you want to be a long-form magazine writer, then there's no reason to take it in the fall. You might be better off taking research methods. There are spring video classes available. You can take those then. So that's kind of what it looks like.
Great, thanks very much, Laura. If we could move on to Elena Cabral about the part-time program. You might like to talk about how that's going to work. The part-time students begin in May as opposed to August, so the schedule is a bit different, and their program covers 6 semesters in a row as opposed to 2 semesters over 10 months.
Right. Great. Can I ask how many of you are contemplating the part-time program? Oh, great. It's really wonderful to have you here. I love the part-time program. Everybody knows that. I'm a graduate of the part-time program myself. I had worked for 5 years after college and was really looking to make this huge move, and the part-time program for me was really the most wonderful option and the best thing I ever did, apart from having kids and getting married and buying a house and a few other things. But this is the exact same degree as the full-time, just so that that's out of the way. You are taking the very same required classes, just in a different format that it gives you the most flexibility to finish this and to get as much, and in some ways a little more in terms of time and affiliation with this wonderful institution over a 2-year period. So you're really only, except for 1 semester, taking just 1 class at a time. And during that 2-year period, being able to participate in a lot of wonderful activities and lectures that we have here, the Career Expo, which you'll hear a little more about later. The part-timers start in the summer with the very same reporting intensive that the full-timers get in May, 4 weeks of this training, which is really meant to make you into a multimedia journalist right out of the gate, to think about news gathering as something that is multi-platform and multimedia. You're looking for stories in your beat throughout that summer. It starts from the first day and goes through the entire summer. You will then, in the middle of the summer, get a catalog of classes that you can choose from to satisfy the requirements of your writing module and your image and sound module. So you'll get this list along with everybody else, and chances are you may be in classes with full-time students. You get a nice long break in the winter to come back in the spring, and the beauty of these spring semesters is that you can choose a spring. I think the hardest part is choosing which class to take. You take a spring seminar and production class, and in some instances you can have 2 chances to get into some of our wonderful offerings, such as Sam Friedman's book writing class or Ari Goldman's covering religion class. And so this PACE is just a terrific way to figure out what it is that you want to do, what type of journalism you want to do. And for some of you who may be career changers and for whom reporting and writing is a very new thing, be able to really take your time with this learning curve and practice a lot. You know, you've heard this mantra about reporting being essential. And the thing about reporting is, you know, we don't have a list of textbooks that we use to teach you this. The way that you learn is by doing. And the more time that you have to really practice this and get the cameras and use them as much as possible and think about New York City in a very different way than you have, you know, the better performer you will be at the end of this process. It's not easy, it's tough. I won't lie about that. You have to give up a bit of things when you're doing this program. It's almost like having another full-time job. But I promise you this, whatever it is that you're giving up to do the part-time program, whether it's travel in the summer or, you know, binging on, you know, some Netflix shows on a Tuesday night, you will not miss, because the things that you get engaged in during this program, the stories that you get to tell, the corners of the city that you've passed a million times but never really found out anything about, will make your time here so much worth it. It really is a life-changing experience. It certainly was for me. I went straight off to the Miami Herald as soon as I finished this. Actually, I did a little detour to Newsday because I felt I really needed, you know, newsroom experience before going into the Miami Herald, which you'll hear from my colleague is a fantastic paper that will train, that has trained many of our graduates and sent them into newsrooms all over the world. So you'll hear a little bit later from some part-timers themselves about how they juggle the work and school balance. It is doable. We've seen all kinds of scenarios from, you know, students who have very challenging jobs to students who have children in the middle of the program. And it's very doable. It's challenging, but very doable and incredibly rewarding.
Great, thanks very much, Elena. Next, I'd like to move to Professor Bill Gruskin, who has just a few things to say.
Hello, everybody. There we go. I want to say a special call out to the moms and dads out there. And if your mom or dad isn't here, if you report them, be sure to thank them for everything they've done so far. I assume there's some moms and dads here. Otherwise, our median age has gone up a little bit, but that's all right, too. So I've been here for about 8 years. I had previously been at the Wall Street Journal, the Miami Herald. My first job was on the Standing Rock Sioux Indian Reservation, starting a newspaper there in North Dakota. And let me just kind of tell you a few things broadly, and I guess there'll be a little Q&A after this, so we can talk about that. How many of you prospective students have heard from colleagues, bosses, girlfriends, boyfriends, parents, why you want to go to journalism school? Has anybody heard that? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to tell you why I think you should go to journalism school, preferably this one, but I know some of you have choices. And I'm going to tell you because it comes from the perspective of somebody, me, who didn't go to journalism school. And obviously, there's all the caveats that I have a strong vested interest in your coming here because I want to teach really good students next year. So when I started in the business a few years ago, my first job was at an afternoon paper in Baltimore. It's called the News American. Is anybody here from Baltimore? There we go. Well, the newspaper died long before you were born, I suspect. But in those days, it was a very traditional kind of a city desk operation, and we used to have to use this thing called a payphone, so you always had to have like dimes and quarters in your pockets. I can tell who the moms and dads are because they're all nodding their heads right now. So I went out to cover a cop story. It was a cop had shot and killed a man who was simply taking a screwdriver out of the trunk of his car, just to show you that some things never change. And I was getting the information from the public information officer in Anne Arundel County, which is the county just south of Baltimore. And I was calling it in to my city editor, or the assistant city editor, and he was asking me questions. I was giving him everything I could give him. And they said, what's the name of the spokesman? I don't remember. I said something like, Joe Johnson, Joseph Johnson. He said, what's his middle initial? I thought, well, I have a 1 in 26 chance of getting this right. So I said, M. And he said, it's R. And if you ever do that again with the F word as a participle put in the middle, your ass is out of here. So why do I tell you this? Partly because when many of us got in this business, there was this whole kind of cadre of kind of assistant city editors, assistant state editors, people who had been in the news business for a long time and who were basically your journalism professors within the confines of a newsroom. And they would encourage you when you went right, and they would beat you up when you went wrong, and very often they had a bottle of bourbon in the lower left drawer of their desk or something. But the idea that you could kind of learn on the job was something that was not just talked about, it was very much true. We talk a lot about disruption in the journalism business, and the truth is, as we saw from the career fair where, 160 employers were here last week, there are a lot of jobs out there, and there's a lot of tremendous opportunities. But in many, many newsrooms, including the one that my daughter works in, she just started covering cops and courts in the Midwest a few months ago, that cadre of kind of mid-level editors who would sort of train you and kind of keep you on the straight and narrow path, those ranks have been greatly diminished. And yet at the same time, thanks to digital, the ramifications from screwing something up are much greater. I made some mistakes at the Baltimore News American when I was a reporter there, and the only way you can find them is if you go to the microfiche at the Baltimore Public Library and go through each little thing. They literally, that's the only place you can find them. Anybody who makes a mistake now, and I'm sure all of us have made some in a digital environment, they become part of your kind of digital fingerprint, right? And so on the one hand, the kind of on-the-job training that you get these days is diminished, yet the consequences of getting things wrong has greatly expanded. And that's the kind of watch-out version of why you should go to J school. But there are other reasons as well. When, it wasn't that long ago that to be a good journalist, the only technological skill that you needed was the ability to type at least 25 to 30 words per minute. But now, if that's the only skill that you bring to the career fair, you're going to be kind of waiting behind people who know something really significant about video or audio or about audience and engagement or about digital engagement, about data, either data processing or data visualization. And these are the kinds of things that the truth is most newsrooms are not equipped to teach you. They need those skills, but they need you to actually come in and to sort of push that ball forward. And that's true whether you're working at a small newspaper in Kansas or if you're working at the Wall Street Journal or where I'm currently at Bloomberg News. We just recently hired somebody, Bloomberg has 18,000 people worldwide, including 2,500 news people. But we've been hiring really smart data and natural language processing people from Columbia because they have skills that even Bloomberg with its vast resources can't quite duplicate. So whatever it is that you want to do as a journalist, there are opportunities here. And while a lot of the things that we can train you in 2016 and 17 are frankly going to be obsolete in 4 or 5 years, what we can do is we can give you the kind of intellectual dexterity along with the reporting and writing chops that you will need to have a really successful career and to deal with the kind of transformative change that we're in. So that's my little pitch for coming here, and I'm happy to talk about my class or about kind of other things as well, but I think I should probably turn it over to Ernest.
Thanks, Bill. We're going to give Dean Sotomayor the opportunity for the last word because he always gets the last word. And then we'll take a couple questions. Dean Sotomayor.
She just managed to get off probation with that remark.
I'm always in trouble.
I'll speak only for a moment so we can cede my time over to you with questions. Unlike Dean Muha and Professor Gruskin, I didn't know in my college days that I was going to journalism. It all began in 7th grade when my mother decided I was going to be in journalism, and by God, I was taking a journalism class. Here I am 45 years later. What I will speak about for just a moment is to a question that a couple of students asked earlier in the day, which was about whether they could, through attending here for a year, focus on a particular concentration area by platform if they weren't in one of the specializations. And the answer to that is yes. You can study almost any subject you want on any platform that you want with the intention of working in any medium that you would like. We don't restrict you to any particular platform. We're, in a sense, platform agnostic. For many years here, the industry sort of looked like this, and journalism school looked like this, where you came in as a newspaper concentrator, and you took newspaper reporting classes, or magazine reporting classes, or radio and audio reporting classes, broadcast television, and in more recent years, digital journalism. That's how the industry basically looked, and that's how the journalism school looked. Today, it sort of looks more like this, and to the point that Professor Gruskin was talking about a few minutes ago. We will have people who will go into the industry, go to a newspaper and do nothing but audio or nothing but video. We have people who've gone to ABC News, never once touched a piece of electronic equipment, except their computer where they're typing stories for the digital edition, covering breaking news and writing stories for the web. So you'll have an opportunity through the classes that you will have an opportunity to sign up for to learn a little bit about this and learn a little bit about that, and to take video classes and audio classes so that by the time you leave, you'll have a good understanding of the different types of media and platforms that you're going to be navigating. That's what people in the industry are going to be expecting you to do, to be able to navigate these different types of platforms. So don't feel like you need to silo yourself into one particular area, or if you come in with a great interest in video, but you're not in the documentary program, that you won't have an opportunity to learn a lot about video and the visual mediums. So, with that, we'll go to your questions.
Do I have some questions? Anybody with questions? Yes. Please stand up and speak loudly, and I'll repeat your question so our live stream audience can hear it. Oh, I see. Sorry, we've got a microphone right there. If you could go over to the mic. And any of you who might have other questions, if you could just line up at the microphones, that'd be great. And speak into the mic.
Yes, you sort of addressed this a moment ago, but if you're not in the documentary program, can your capstone project be a video or a film?
The option for people not in the documentary program, which is a 3-semester program, you would have to stay over the summer following the summer of 2017. Yes, there is a video option. It's 1 part video and 1 part print, so that complement each other. It has, we call it a video hybrid, which I don't know, that name always it doesn't sit well with me, but it gives you the idea. So yeah, it's a 4 to 6 minute video and maybe 2,500 words, negotiable on both halves.
Got it, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. That's better? Hi. I'd be curious to hear your guys' perspective it seems like the journalism school here has done a really great job of incorporating all these new sort of content types and disciplines into the program. But as you guys are looking out in this changing journalism landscape in the next 5 and 10 years, what do you think are either the kinds of content or platforms that you think are going to be sort of exciting, and like what are you excited about in the next 5 or 10 years?
Ask us in 5 years.
In 5 years, yeah. Well, that's a really good question. In fact, that's what we addressed in the fall business of journalism class that I teach. So I think oftentimes that the answer to that gets reduced to what will video look like, or what will audio look like, or something like that. And I prefer to look at it as a somewhat different way, that the relationship with your audience is fundamentally and irrevocably changed. And that's reflected in several ways. One is that anybody in the world can read anything that you publish. 2, that you suddenly have sources of information, some verified and some not, that you can incorporate into your reporting. And so I think what to me is the most interesting thing is the distributed nature of both the production of journalism as well as the consumption of it, as well as, and this is both interesting and potentially troubling, the influence that platforms like Facebook are going to have in terms of determining who your audience is and what people are going to read. And how that gets sussed out over the next couple of years is really interesting. We were, we had a guest in my class just last week who was talking about somewhere between 30 and 50% of their website's total traffic comes from Facebook. And so suddenly there's engineers in Palo Alto who are determining at what extent your stories are going to get read and which stories are going to get read. So how do journalists process that, where you no longer kind of have a printing press downstairs where the printing press belongs to a third party?
I'll also add that Facebook was at our Career Expo this weekend. They had 4 people there interviewing students.
Thank you. Hi. You talked a little bit about the ways in which New York City is a laboratory in which students learn how to do reporting. For those of us who maybe are interested in, for example, national politics or international affairs, in what ways does that focus get integrated into our curriculum in time here? Or can it?
Oh, I think very much. First of all, there are obviously spring classes in all of those subject areas, but I also think that within the beats that you might cover for your reporting class, for instance, you know, there's a lot of room to interpret. I mean, my class covers not a neighborhood sort of geographic beat. My class covers state Supreme Court, okay? And as part of that, I mean, if you think about what that encompasses, if you're interested in business, I mean, my heavens, you know, you look at the civil court. I mean, that's so much of what's going on there. I think that any of the instructors would say that if you're interested in environmental issues, you shape your beat that way. You pursue those stories. You pursue a master's project that enables you to go deep on those subjects. And then in the spring semester, yes, there's international affairs. There's classes in multiple, that will give you multiple exposures to that. Can you send out the spring curriculum
Oh, sure.
link?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure everybody gets that.
What I would add to that is that the skills that you're learning in these reporting classes are very fungible. Reporting a beat in Harlem or covering housing or the education system here will be the same kind of thing that you would do if you were assigned to cover a state legislature. That is, learning how to source and how to get people to talk to you, learning how to read documents, or if you're covering a whole continent like some people do in South America or a whole country. It begins with that basic skills of reporting and learning how to get people to identify with what you're needing and going out to find it. So the skills that you're going to be learning in New York as a laboratory are the same kind of things you're going to use no matter what kind of beat. And you can apply those, coverage of immigration, business news, science. The topics are really universal, and the method of reporting is really quite universal.
And of course, it's New York City. A lot of what happens in the world reverberates here, whether it's, and nationally, whether it's the Syrian refugee crisis or the mortgage meltdown. The beauty of our classes are that we don't spoon feed you story ideas. We expect you to find them. We refer to that as enterprise reporting, where you go out and find stories that you can't find anywhere else. And chances are, if you're writing about Common Core in the biggest school district in the country, it's probably going to be a story that is highly relevant in almost any school district across the country. So, much of what you report about here, it's sort of like that adage about New York City. If you can write about it here, you can write about it anywhere.
I'll also say that you will notice on the class Facebook page, if you do come here, all the time you'll find classmates who are writing in and saying, who speaks Arabic? I need somebody to do some translating for me when I go out to talk to this person. Or who speaks whatever language that we have here in New York City. So you're learning things like how to find somebody who's going to help you with that, which of course is a very necessary skill if you're reporting in a country where that language is not your first language or any of your languages, because many of you here speak more than one language. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. We'll just take the questions from the people who are standing up right now, because we do need to move on to the next section.
Thank you. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the logic behind making the program 1 year as opposed to 2 years, and then maybe how many clips or stories on average a student leaves with at the end of the year for their portfolio.
Oh, the only two programs we have for the MS program are the 10-month program and the part-time program. We don't have
I know, I mean, as opposed to other master programs. Some others are too.
I mean, students who want to can complete the MS program, then stay a second year for the MA program, if they choose to. And that gives them, I mean, they would have to apply, but generally speaking, if you're successful in the MS, you can get into the MA. And that enables you to spend your first year focusing on a lot of the skills that you need in terms of reporting, video data, that kind of thing. And then the MA program, I don't know how much many of you know about it, but that's a somewhat higher level program that has concentrations in subjects, business, politics, arts, and science, with very high level seminars, including classes at other graduate programs around Columbia. So you can, for people who want to do that, they can do that. We also have the third semester in documentary. We're about to have data, and then we have a dual degree program in computer science and journalism as well for people who want to get a dual degree. So that said, so far as I know, Berkeley is the only American school that has a 2-year graduate program. I know Annenberg used to, and they cut it back to 1 year because I think a lot of students felt that they really wanted to kind of, one thing that Annenberg faced was a lot of students would complete the first year, felt that they had gotten what they needed, and they kind of take off, and so they reduced it from 2 years down to 1.
Thank you.
First of all, thanks so much for fielding our questions, and secondly, my apologies because my question has a couple of parts. I was just curious about how you kept up with your graduate students. What kind of information do you gather from them in terms of like satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the program? And secondly, could you give us a spread of how many of your graduates recently who are, working full-time, working part-time, freelancing, doing fellowships, internships?
We lose touch with the graduates the farther away they are from graduation. That said, we survey the entire graduating class and we capture probably 98-99% of our students at the time of graduation to gauge what their immediate plans are. We've tried surveying them 6 months out, 9 months out, a year, and even beyond that. The response rate is usually very low, but that said, we are able to remain in contact with a lot of them over the years. So we have a pretty good gauge on where they're working. And where they're working are at the top tier companies all over the world. A lot of them are small, a lot of them are big, medium-sized in every platform, in just about every continent. We don't have an exact roster of where everybody's working because we lose touch with them as they lose touch with us, and it's all self-reporting. But again, we have a really good idea because we're getting back to them. They're coming back to recruit at our Career Expo. They're coming in as speakers. They come into town. They come to visit us. And over the years, we've just seen that they've risen to the top of a lot of the new organizations that they're working at, not necessarily in the management positions, but in the reporting ranks. So it's kind of a self-reported, but we see anecdotally, very strongly anecdotally, that they've done very, very well and accelerated quickly in the positions in the companies that they've worked at.
What I'm showing you right now is the places where the graduating class has landed, and you can find this information on the website if you go to the career development section and then look under employment statistics.
Well, we collect a lot of data from students just by talking to them through the year. They evaluate classes when they're done with them. They talk to us a lot. We have a very active student leadership group. The SPJ, Society for Professional Journalists, has a student leadership, a board that are very active and tell us a lot about things that they'd like to see or changes they'd like to propose to make everything from the number of staples that are available in classrooms to how international students could get a foothold in the job market a little better. And so, speaking as both a student, a graduate, faculty member, career services person, and an administrator, I can tell you that one of the reasons why I've remained here, besides the fact that this university has been very much an intellectual home for me since I was 18 years old, is also because I've always felt that this is a school, because it's filled with journalists, it's filled with like-minded people that listens very closely to its students and adjusts accordingly to the things that, might change according to where the industry is, but also to what our students' needs are. This is a really receptive place. I've always felt that students have a big voice here.
To further illustrate the point, just really quickly, with the Panama Papers, for instance, the person who was the chief data editor for that project, Mark Cabra, who's from Spain, was a graduate from this program. The person who led the coverage for the Miami Herald is a graduate. The person who led the coverage with Fusion in Miami also was a graduate. And there were sprinklings of other people who were involved in that project. So we're able to see, again, anecdotally, but very strongly anecdotally, what they're doing by seeing their names popping up constantly in bylines for projects like that. And so we are able to gauge and talk about what it is they're doing out there.
I think if any of you have seen the ProPublica story about nursing licenses and the problems that New York State has with that, the 3 women who broke that story are Columbia Journalism School graduates from the class of 2014. They started that project when they were students in an investigative journalism class here at the J School.
2015.
2015. Okay. Sorry, 2015. One last question. Hi there.
Hi. So while you were going through the curriculum, you focused a lot on reporting and news, but over my admittedly short time as a journalist so far, something that both I and my editors have focused a lot on has been criticism, opinion, reviews, cultural and media analysis, sort of think PC type writing. And I was wondering to what degree students are able to pursue those at Columbia.
We do offer, it depends a little bit from one year to the next. We do often, not every year, but quite often offer as part of one of the writing modules an opinion writing class. And there's an arts criticism class in the spring. What am I not?
800 words. Kevin Coyne. We've had a class by Professor Kevin Coyne, who traditionally is the most subscribed to professor, who offers a class called 800 Words. It's a reported column that's a little bit opinion, but really it's kind of a feature writing column. But to get back to the point that you've heard from everyone up here, these stories all get back to reporting. And if you're going to do a really good piece of criticism, a good editorial, it's going to be steeped in good reporting. That's how you make a great argument in favor of this or, in contra of this. It all hinges on how well you gather facts, how much information, and how authoritative you are in what you're writing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your questions and your participation. We're going to move on, and actually thank you all faculty as well. Really appreciate it. We're going to move on now to the student experience panels. The MA students, who's taking my MA students? Oh, they're already down there, sorry. My MS students, part-time students will go with Professor Cabral, so that you'll go to meet in 601B, room 601B. So if the part-time students, if you'll follow Professor Cabral, and then the full-time students, we invite you to stay here. And I'd like to invite my full-time student panel to come on up. Okay. I'm going to have my student panel each introduce themselves, and you will hear from them a little bit about what they're doing, how they got here, things that they like about the program. They might also tell you things that they've found difficult this year. And we will also have plenty of time for questions, because I know you'll really want to talk with them. So I'm going to start first with Sarah.
All right, you want all that up front or just my name?
No, why don't you just dive in?
All right, fantastic. So I'm Sarah Bellingham. I'm a full-time MS, and I'm in the documentary program. Actually, how many people do we have in the doc program who are here? All right, so a few of you guys. It's awesome. So all the doc students have an additional semester that they do either over the summer or the fall. I'm going to be doing mine in the fall. I'm working on 2 documentaries right now, actually, both with the same film partner. One of them is for our master's thesis, and another is for one of our spring classes. The master's thesis is on actually Pennsylvania congressional elections, and the shorter term one is on vampire communities of New York and New Jersey. So that's a lot of fun. On SPJ, one of the documentary chairs. Let me see. Any more than that? What I like, what I don't like, come back to me.
Sure, we'll come back to that. Armando.
Hello, my name is Armando Garcia. I'm a full-time MS. For my master's project, I did a hybrid written and video piece. The written piece was about the destruction of the public healthcare system in Syria. It was a little bit of an investigative piece, just talking about some of the diseases that have resurfaced because of the attacks on clinics. The other half was a short documentary that I filmed. Part of it was filmed in Italy, which I was able to travel with the covering religion class, which I highly recommend. It's a very just kind of immersive class where you get given a beat. Mine was Catholics, other people cover the Muslim community, and you report on that wherever you go next year, which I believe is India. Every year there's a trip, and it's pretty much all expenses paid, which is really, really great as well. And that's it for me. Oh, I'm sorry. The documentary part was about refugees, Syrian refugees, and the resettlement process.
Hi, my name is Shloka. Sounds like Mocha and Poka, if you're asking questions later. Which I encourage you to do, because I was the person who came to open house and asked every single person a question.
It's true, she did.
She remembers. But anyway, I am in the dual degree program with computer science and journalism. How many people are thinking about that program that are here? The few, the lonely few? One, wonderful. But I'm also specializing in video, so I can talk a little bit about those classes in the journalism part. My background was all computer science. I came here new to journalism. Because I'm in the dual degree program, my schedule for my master's project is slightly different, but being a woman in tech and woman in media now, my master's project is a deep dive into the topic of online harassment, looking at the data and all the different topics involved and the issues at hand. Still working on it, but yeah.
Back to you, Sarah.
All right, awesome. Let me see, miscellaneous things we like.
Well, why did you decide to come here? And what have you found since you've arrived?
All right, fantastic. And actually, that reminds me, I didn't even tell you where I'm from. So I'm from California. Spent the last couple years working in the Boston area. Was working for a number of different independent production companies on mainly science and natural history documentaries. I mean, there were a number of things that happened. One was I knew that long term, I really wanted to be doing more social and political docs, so I knew I needed to somehow shift gears that way. The other thing is I knew I wanted to produce and direct. And I was working as an associate producer, and it's like, okay, well, how do you make that jump from A to B? How do you get to a point where you're actually going to be taken seriously, where festivals are going to be looking at your films, and where you have the resources to actually do something like that? Applied here and was really really honored to get to come. So let me see. And I guess the other big thing I mean, I guess, yeah. The other big thing about being here for me, especially now that I've experienced the program, is the most important part of the program is you guys. So this place is a really, really, really incredible opportunity for collaboration. So I mean, like they were saying on, before on Facebook, people will be like, hey, anybody speak Arabic, can you help me translate? But then there's also, hey, you guys are in the data program, you really know your data, I'm working on this project that I think, I need help, trying to, get a hold of this information and go through it, like let's actually work together, because you can accomplish so much more, when you harness the talents of all these different people. So really, if you come here, take advantage of that. It's such an incredible opportunity. And the best part is, hopefully, it doesn't end here. So you have each other this year, but this is also this incredible network that you're graduating into. I find alumni extremely helpful. I've had people who I've been given the numbers of and called up pretty much randomly who, hearing I'm, at the J school, just immediately were, ready and excited to help, who otherwise would probably have been pretty inaccessible. Yeah, no, and I think we're all going to be working together after this. I was joking at the Career Expo. I was like, okay, if I don't get hired, like, hey guys, because that's the thing. We're all going to be here. We've all been working together. We know what we're good at. We know what our friends are good at. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say congratulations to all of you guys for embarking on this great journey. I'm very excited to see very happy faces and smiling, and keep those smiles as long as you can. This is I've heard this described as the best 10 months you'll never want to do again in your career. It's going to be very tough, but it's very rewarding. Before coming to the J School, I'm from California. I'm from Napa Valley. I was a news correspondent for San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara County for Univision. And I felt very limited by the daily news rotation, where you just basically go to press conferences and you hear breaking news and everything. That has a place in journalism, obviously. I love it, but I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do the follow-up, the investigation. So that's why I decided to come here. I was also slightly considering UC Berkeley, because they have a great program as well. But I think what really did for me here was what better place to cover stories than New York City? From here, you can cover any kind of story. If it's something about the refugee crisis, and every international topic is rooted in New York City, you'll be able to contact someone who's being affected by these worldly issues. And that, to me, to have that access has been amazing in my reporting. And then also what you said, the best thing about this is also you guys. I think Columbia does a really great job to recruit people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, from all places and corners of the world, and you guys are your greatest assets. You collaborate a lot, of course, and just to be able to call up someone and be like you guys were saying earlier, does someone speak Arabic or does someone speak Spanish? I'm the go-to Spanish speaker guy, so I translated for everyone basically. And I only charge them coffee, which is pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So why did I come here? My parents still don't know. So my whole background is computer science, and I should also mention anyone who's interested in the data concentration, I can speak a little bit about that and the tech stuff, like you were saying. Consulting with data, yeah, that's what you get when you code. But I was all computer science. My undergrad was computer science at Dartmouth. I should mention I grew up in Indiana, so I'm an Indian American from Indiana. And I came to Dartmouth and I studied computer science, and then I worked at MIT as a software developer full-time. And I came here sort of on a whim. This program isn't that old. It's only been around for maybe 4, 5, going on 6 years maybe. And when it first came out, I was a junior in my undergrad. And I liked computer science, but I noticed a lot of my coursework that wasn't strictly computer related were sort of in the media sector. So I took a documentary filmmaking class, I took media art, and my background's a lot of music, a lot of performing arts, and I love, love, love public speaking so much, which is why I'm here. But I had to figure out, like, how can I bring this, like, interest that I have, this sort of hobby up to that point, into my main career, because what I was doing up until that point was just working in front of a computer. And so I literally started Googling computer science performing arts grad school, computer science public speaking grad school, and then in one of those searches, this program came up. It was the first year, and I just wrote it in a notebook, and I'm like, when applying to grad school, think about this program. Cut to MIT, when I had to actually apply to these programs, and literally this was supposed to be a trial run. Like, I did not think I would get in. I never wrote for a high school newspaper. I never went out and did an interview. So I did not think I was going to get in, and so I told myself, apply, get rejected, figure out what you did wrong, and then apply the next year. And then I got in, which wasn't part of the plan, and I had to figure out, great, how am I going to pay for this? But once I came here, I didn't come here planning to be a journalist, because I knew that I had heard a lot of conflicting things from reading articles and learning about the tech industry, the media industry, that things were changing. Everything was changing. So I told myself, I'm coming here to learn a skill set. And you will learn that skill set, Pat. Like, it will become second nature probably by the end of this. Because for me, especially going into reporting without having done reporting before, journalism makes you social in the most uncomfortable way, so then anything else looks easy. So, like, the first assignment that I had was a man on the street, where we basically had to do an article, and we had to talk to like 10 people, and we had to get phone numbers, emails, and first and last names. I'm like, oh God, I don't know anyone here. I've never lived in a city before. I'm from a small suburb. And so it forces you to be uncomfortable in the most difficult ways. And like they were saying, collaboration, here there is an engineered diversity, because they've created a class with different skill sets, different interests. And once you put all of those people in the same room, you end up finding about fields and interests and experiences you will probably never be exposed to for the rest of your life, especially when you go into the workforce and you might be working with a very specific community. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of learning the skill sets you want to, and also take advantage of the fact that you're getting exposed to a lot of people here that you're probably never going to meet. Like, that was the most amazing thing about the Career Expo. In one room, you meet representatives from so many major networks, so many startups, so many companies. So take advantage of those connections, take advantage of the opportunities you're given here with the different skill sets. And he's right, this will be the 10 months you never want to experience again, but you'll love. But for me, it was 2 years.
Okay, I know there are a lot of questions that you have. We've got about 10 minutes for questions. Again, please line up by the mics. And if you would also just tell us your name and where you're from as well.
We're not getting paid for this, so you guys can ask any questions.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Wait, we're not getting paid for this.
Nah.
They're not getting paid.
We're journalists, we have to be honest, man.
Hi, my name's Eva Anderson. I'm originally from Iowa, so go Midwest. But now I've lived in New York City for the past 5 years. Okay, so I have a lot of questions, but I'm just going to pick one because we have a billion people. I would love for you guys to touch on the concept of being overwhelmed, because not just with the inevitable stress and workload that comes with graduate school, but the exciting opportunities you have and how you deal with. I'm assuming most of you didn't come in with like one direct thing going, I'm going to come out and I'm going to get this. And you see, oh my gosh, I maybe have not only the skill set now, but the passion to do so many different things. How do you deal with that? Going to all the different events and, the relationships you can form, and, what kind of tools do you use to focus that?
I'll take it.
Go for it.
I want to answer this one too.
I can talk about being overwhelmed. No, this is, my best advice would be just to try everything. Go to all the lectures that you possibly can. Try a class that you don't think that you're going to be interested in. Who knows? It might be that one thing. You might be inspired by that one professor, because all the professors here take time to really kind of coach you through something because they know that, you may have never been covering video or you've never, done print or radio. They really work with you. So my best advice is, yes, you have all these opportunities and this is like, a buffet and you can try everything. You really can. So definitely do so.
I have a slightly different point of view. So one of the things that you have to sort of be okay with, especially with the program that I'm in, because it's dual, you're trying to complete 2 full master degree program in 2 years. You're going to miss a lot, just logistically. It's impossible to do everything. And you're human too. You need to sleep at least a little, like at least a couple hours to survive. But the thing is, yes, there are a lot of opportunities, but don't feel bad if you have to pick one over the other, because there's going to be a conflict. After a certain point, once you get into the groove of things and you figure out what this platter looks like, once you see the whole buffet table, you sort of think, okay, I want to get this, I want to get this, I want to get this. You're probably not gonna, so let's stick with this buffet metaphor, you're probably not gonna be able to eat everything because then you won't be able to move. But once you pick the few things that you really like, focus on those and be able to say no to the rest and feel comfortable mentally for saying, okay, I said no to that talk even though I really wanted to go, but I have this other thing to do. This is what I want to focus my attention on. And once you're able to make sort of those litmus decisions after you know what the most important things are, it becomes a little bit easier to manage the amount of opportunities.
Yeah, and actually adding on to that a little bit, I mean, there are going to be days where you feel like you need to be in 3 places at the same time. Like, obviously you can't do that and you prioritize. I think one of the most important things is really, like, seriously take care of yourself, make sure you get enough sleep, and I mean, you can't do everything, but you can sure as hell try. So, and there's a lot of really awesome stuff to try. I mean, I've gone to as many lectures as I possibly can. I've gone to a ton of workshops. And, honestly, I came into this thinking, okay, I want to do long-form documentary, that's it. I've actually become really, really interested in, like, mobile news apps, the technology and the future of journalism. I've done breaking news stuff and found out, oh my gosh, I really love this, and I love making shorter videos as well. So, yeah, I mean, be willing to experiment and try. And, another thing, make time to hang out with friends. Seriously, and I mean, the friends here, I have, okay, this is on the record, half my ideas, I swear to God, happened while I was, hanging out at a bar with like 5 other people from the J school, and we're like, you know what? Like, that sounds like a really great idea. Oh my God, what if we did this? What if we did that? And I mean, you're gonna get to know people in class a bit, but you're gonna get to know them a lot better outside of the classroom. So, I mean, go to stuff with them, see something different in New York with them, do something every now and again that's not journalism related, because it's probably going to inspire something that is. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Try it.
Okay, let's, over there.
Hi, Andrew Beal from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Yes, it really is like Breaking Bad, just to lay that to rest. It's all true. This question's for the guy in the middle. I can't read your name tag.
Armando. I'm from Old Mexico.
Glasses. Armando. Okay, pretty close to where I'm from. So you mentioned that you were accepted to both Berkeley and Columbia, and you chose Columbia over Berkeley. And the reasons you talked about for it were like actually being in New York City and also the network of people that were accepted here. But I was wondering, in terms of like the actual program here at Columbia, the classes and what you learn from going to school here, what do you think the advantages are here versus another university?
Well, you got to remember all the professors here are either still currently in the business, or they have contacts or deep ties with all these organizations.
Actually, everybody is on deadline here all the time.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, there we go.
Including the dean.
Right. So as far as the program, I chose this because, one, I knew that it was going to be very rigorous. These 10 months go by really, really fast. You do a lot of things at once. There's no tests at the J school. Well, there is that grammar test, but we don't want to talk about that, actually. We'll tell. Yeah. That's a different story. There is a grammar test we have to take.
It's not graded.
It's painful. It's very tough. But all of your classes are project-based, so you are really handling like 2 or 3 projects at once. But that's really great because it really gives you the opportunity to be kind of like, you know, 1 foot in the video. For me, it was 1 foot in the video world and 1 foot in the print world, you know, and that's something that I don't think you'd be able to get really in another school. This is really tailored to what you want to get out of it, you know, and if you go in there with the thought that I want to challenge myself, you'll be pleased. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kate Ryan. I'm from Rhode Island. I was wondering if you could speak to, especially for someone who's transitioning from another line of work, to the lack of internship that happens at the school. And do you feel that with all the project-based classes that you have, that you graduate with enough material to be actually prepared for the working world?
So you're saying if you have enough of a portfolio once you graduate from here to be able to...
Yeah, without doing an internship while you're in school, do you feel, you know, prepared
Well,
to?
I mean, I can't. I literally can't. If I tried to, I'd be dead, like, to do an internship while I'm in school. But I can say that it depends on the classes you take and the kind of work you want to do. So let's say that you want to, like, you know totally, like, you want to work in journalism or you want to work in print or something like that. And the kind of writing you want to do is, let's say, longer pieces. Then you should take classes that have longer pieces. And then if you have fewer clips, it makes sense because you've spent more time on the longer pieces. Now, for me personally, I really wanted, beyond the computer stuff, to work in video. I really wanted to work in video, and I had no background. So the class that I'm taking right now forces you to do 1 story every week. And the benefit of that is once you're finished, you have a portfolio of like 7, 8, sometimes like 10 stories that you can then say, here's the work that I've done. So it depends on the class and how the class is structured. Some say you're working on 1 project for the whole term and it's going to be long form investigative. Some will say you're doing 4 pieces. Some, like mine, are like you're doing a story every week. So it depends on the class, but it is possible to get enough of a portfolio if you don't have one before.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in fact, I mean, it's more than a full-time job. This really, I mean, in the best way possible, J-School takes over your life. And the thing is, I mean, the program is so darn short. There's so many opportunities here. I mean, even with just like going to the lectures and talking to the speakers afterward, quite frankly, I mean, I have, you know, people who I've met at like, you know, the Baltimore Sun or Al Jazeera or whoever who happened to be at the J-School for some talk, you know, chatted afterward, exchanged information, and, you know, now we're in touch. And that's a really cool person who I can go to for, you know, guidance and sort of mentorship. And I mean, I guess, you know, you have to ask yourself, okay, what do you want to get out of the internship? Because if you're looking for the guidance and mentorship, you can really get that here. I mean, if you're looking to get paid, it's, you know, this is already such a big investment. I'd just go all in. I just go all in and fully commit and take as much advantage of the program as you can.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, totally.
This is your internship. Like, the school is your internship. And on top of that, we have career services that they do an amazing job to working with you and really connecting you to the internship and fellowship opportunities that they think, you know, will get you there. Mm-hmm. There's several, I don't know if you guys have been introduced to this yet, but there's several J-School exclusive fellowships with like Telemundo, NBC, ABC. This is basically, these are people who recruit only J-School people. So that's, I mean, amazing opportunity to kind of like get your name out there. And what's even better is that sometimes these recruiters are J-School grads too, so.
You'll hear a bit more about that. We'll have somebody from the Career Services Office speaking tomorrow morning.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Summer Mesa. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I currently attend Santa Clara University in the San Francisco Bay Area. My question's for Armando, but maybe all 3 of you could respond. I'm not sure. So your experience in Italy reporting on religion sounded like it was a really valuable experience, but in your current projects that have an international component or focus, do you feel that you have had enough access or direction? Like, what has your reporting looked like as a student from here in New York City?
Yeah, well, I was part of also the international reporting class taught by Howard French. Mm-hmm. He's an amazing professor, an amazing mentor. And in that class, you have to cover international topics here in New York City. So just because you're here in New York City doesn't mean that you can't call abroad, right? But what's really cool also is like, for example, the stories that I was doing on like the refugee crisis. Well, I would talk to like Amnesty International, which is their headquarters are here in New York City. So that's what I'm saying, like any story that you want to cover abroad, you can cover here. There's people who are researchers on Syria, you know, who live here or who work at Mount Sinai Hospital, like one of my sources. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Shayna. I'm from Los Angeles. My question is directed to Shloka. As a computer scientist, well, you're a computer scientist, I feel like I have a sense of what a good video is, what a good radio piece is, what a good, article is. But the platform that's most nebulous to me is the digital platform. And for someone who doesn't want to focus on that but understands the importance of data, I just don't know how, like, what goals should I set in terms of how techy I should get? Like, do you have any recommendations for how I would shape approaching it?
Well, this is sort of a life recommendation for everybody after being a computer scientist, but I think everyone should know how to code. Like at least in one language. They have data classes here where they start from the basic to learn how to code. I'm not saying you should be a coder. Like, I know that's not for everyone, that lifestyle's not for everyone, but I'm saying that you should because you need to know how to talk to the techies, at the very least. There's a language, there's a jargon, there's a way of thinking about problems. And quite frankly, lots of platforms are becoming digital now. You have to think on a digital medium because more people are spending time in the digital world than they are maybe with a print newspaper. Like, I don't know the last time I picked up a print newspaper except, like maybe being handed one on the street or, a pamphlet or something. But because a lot more people are in that space and journalists are about informing people, you need, to paraphrase Little Mermaid, you need to go where the people are. And the people are going to be on online platforms. And to understand that, you can bring all of the stuff that you know about audio, video, all of these different medium to that and enrich that and make it better. By not being part of that digital space, you're basically taking that knowledge away and keeping it in the analog world, if that makes sense. So I would recommend taking maybe, if not a data class, a data seminar. The Tao Center and the Brown Institute, they have talks all the time. One of the founders of Vine was here a few weeks ago to talk about, like, how can you tell a story in 6 seconds? But be involved. You don't have to like digital. I know not everyone likes digital, but you should be aware of it and know how to approach it, because if the job of a journalist is to inform people, you need to understand that space.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenny Kamen, Houston to New Orleans to Los Angeles. And my question is it a mistake to live away from campus? Are there students who live sort of all over the city? Are you mostly consolidated to the Upper West Side?
I would recommend you try to stay as close to campus as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it tends to be a little bit more expensive closer to the campus. But if you're going to look anywhere near the 1 line, which is the only train that runs up here. That is the best advice that I could give you. I know it's really hard to find a place in New York City. Pretty sure I had to sell my firstborn child basically to my broker, but my future firstborn child. But I would definitely recommend it. I mean, people do it. I mean, I have friends who live in Queens or live in Brooklyn. It's New York City. There's a train for everything, for everywhere. But remember that you're going to stay here overnight. Sometimes you're going to be here till 3, 4 a.m. You want to be closer to home.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just add to that is that if any of you are thinking of living on Long Island, New Jersey, or Connecticut, stop thinking about that right now.
And if you're international, look into applying to the International House. That's close by.
And if you're not international, there'll still, you guys will end up having a Facebook page if they haven't done something with that already. And for me, the roommates who I'm living with right now, it turned out one of them is in the doc program as well, and it turned out we had all the same classes our first semester, so it was kind of fantastic. And another is a girl in the data program, and we just, it was completely, Facebook page, hey, I'm still looking for a place, anybody looking for people to live with? latched on. One of the girls lived in New York, so she's like, hey, look, I'm on the ground here. I'll start looking. What sorts of things are you guys looking for? I have a kitty here. So I had to, I was like, okay, I need it pet friendly. I need this, I need that. All right, good. Line something up, and they're wonderful. They're awesome. So worked out well.
Next question.
Hi, my name's Kelsey Blazier. I'm from Arizona originally, but I've been in New York for 5 years. I just had a question about the kind of resources. I know Columbia is very well connected as far as networking goes, but what equipment is available to you? Is it up to date? Is there enough for all the students? Is it going to be a problem if I don't have my own equipment, or if I do, will I be able to get microphones, et cetera, et cetera?
I'll start with that one.
I think we can all speak on this one.
The doc program. Basically, if you do have your own equipment, awesome. That's wonderful. Some people do, most do not. We work mainly on the Canon C100s for video. Those have very solid mics. We've got the shotgun mics available. We have wired and wireless lavs. All of the tripods, whatever, monopods, pretty much whatever you need. There's, a couple things that I have bought on my own. I think one thing that's worth, investing in if you're doing video work, if you don't have it, is, a solid backpack to carry your stuff around. Because you do see we all have the little roller bags that they send us off with, which I'm sure you've seen people around campus with those by this point. But they're handy, but it's nice to be a little more compact with things, especially depending on where you are and what you're reporting on. The way that they do it is, there's a time limit for how long you have something out, and at that point you have to come back and sort of recheck it out, renew it. Most important thing, honestly, though, is just be nice to everybody in the equipment room.
Yes.
Yeah.
The people who are manning the cameras and equipment back there, if you
Yeah.
have more questions, talk to them.
So it's if you need help with something, if something is going wrong with your equipment for whatever reason, if you need something, these guys will really, they really do your best to make sure that they have your back and are very, very helpful and awesome, and the best part of the equipment setup here.
No.
Sorry, guys.
I was going to say also, if you take a look on the new students website, which I know all of you have already looked at, you will find a technology report or a technology letter there that gives you a lot of detail about what we have, what you might want to think about, and what you do not need to get.
Also, B&H Photo gives a discount to Columbia
Yeah.
students, so once you become a student here, you can take advantage of that before you graduate to get your equipment.
Now, one of the things that's a mystery here, and maybe one of you guys can do an investigative piece on this, is where do all the staples and the staplers
Staplegate.
go? I swear, if just invest in a pack of staples, because you never know if you have to staple a packet and you're on deadline, and that's the one thing that you need, and that's the one thing you can't find at the J School. You want to be prepared, and you can sell them as currency as well. You can use it as currency.
Or you can come by the admissions office.
Or the first floor mailroom.
Okay, next
hook it
question, please.
Hi, I'm Jesse. I'm from Shanghai, China, and I'm currently a senior newspaper and online journalism major at the Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University. I was rejected by the journalism school at UC Berkeley, but it turns out to be one of the best things in my life because now I don't have to hesitate choosing Columbia.
There you go.
And thank you for that unpaid announcement.
And any of you can take my question because you said the journalism school is really intense. I heard a lot from my undergrad institution too. So I'm wondering if any of you can share your hardest time here and what did you do to pull through it?
I think the hardest time for me was actually during master's project, just having to balance. I did a hybrid piece, as I said, but so I had to really balance editing that and then editing my other video class that I have, which I have a story due every week, and then on top of that, I have another class where I have to write a piece every week. So it is really intense, but I don't know. I guess the best advice I can give is something that Sarah said. Just take time for yourself. Like breathe, meditate if you want to do it. Like just take care of yourself and take care of your health, and that's how you'll be able to do this. But they give you a lot of work, but it's not unbearable. They give you just the right amount of work.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm originally from Albany, and I've lived in New York for the past 6 years. So my question, I actually have a two-parter also, I'm so sorry. So first of all, what platforms are you guys editing on, and which ones can you learn? And then also, I'm also interested in growing in front of the camera as well as behind the camera. What, does this program lend itself to that? Are you able to grow? Are there people that are here to help you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
All at once.
The video editing.
I'll add on anything.
The video editing software that we use is primarily Premiere.
Mm-hmm.
So you're encouraged to use that, definitely. And they're available on every single computer on campus, I mean, in this building. As far as the on-air skills, the video newsrooms, they will tell you about your stand-ups. They'll help you make it more conversational. And then also what's really great, which I'm doing right now, is there's an on-air skills class. I think it's like a 5-part class or 5 weeks. It's very intense. They put you right in front of the camera and they make you do things live, like make you say a story that they just handed to you like live. There's really a lot of help. I mean, a lot of these people, and some of the adjuncts too, like I have an adjunct, Professor Jen Maxfield, who works at WNBC. She works with you to really get you more comfortable on camera.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the whole Adobe suite, and for anyone who's interested in data, the two primary languages or platforms that people use here in the J School are R for data analysis and Python.
Okay, next question. And I'm going to ask that we just finish with the people who are currently standing so we can move on to the financial aid presentation.
Hello, this is Harry from Beijing, China. And I have two questions for Shloka, because I come from the same background as yours, like a pure CS background, and I'm contemplating the same program that you are in. So my first question is, as a person who comes from a non-journalism background, what kind of extra work would I need to do to adjust to the environment? And second, what is your career plan personally? And if you're thinking about going into tech, what are the advantages that this program provides you?
Okay, so just so that I'm clear, the first one was about adjustments made to journalism from CS, and the second one was career plans?
Yes.
Okay. The first one, yeah, if you don't know too much about journalism, there are like terms, I think it's mostly the jargon that you have to get over, and also the style of writing. See, one of the reasons I thought I would never get into the J School was because on the journalism writing exam that you have to take to get in here, they ask you, current events and what are your news sources, and half of them I wrote The Daily Show and The Colbert Report. This was before John Oliver started his work. And so, yeah, I was like, no way are they going to let me into the school. But the thing is, I think it's the style of writing that you'll need to adjust to, the jargon. Honestly, I think the term that was the least, where I had to do the least amount of juggling was the first term I was here, where it was just all journalism. And the other terms where I've had some mixture of CS and journalism have been more difficult to manage, because then you're jumping from the engineering school to the journalism school, and so your brain gets pulled in different directions. And there they grade you, like with letter grades. Here they do pass-fail, and so you're also having to figure out the right combo of how much work do I need to get in so I can still get through everything all right. Okay. But yeah, it's manageable. It is manageable. It's mostly jargon and it's mostly style. In terms of careers, I'm not planning to leave the tech. Like, one of the things that I took advantage of here is I did recruiting for tech, and I did recruiting through the J School for media careers. And I can talk to you a little bit more personally about my experience with that between the first and second year and then now. But the idea is keep your options open, because now you're going to have skill sets in coding and you're going to have skill sets in media, both very marketable together. It depends on the company you apply to. If you're going to a super tech company, they might wonder, why did you go to the journalism school? And if you're going to go into total media, unless you're doing data journalism, they might wonder, why did you study CS before? You know, it depends on who you talk to, but keep your options open because you'll have a lot of options. And especially look at the intersection, like with startups and entrepreneurial ventures in the media tech area.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Tara. I'm originally from California, but live in Washington, D.C. now. My question is for all of you. In terms of the J School, it's such a large program. Do you find that you can get the support that you need from professors to do your projects? And if so, how do you go about getting that support?
Oh my gosh. So just on every level, yeah, there's a lot of really, really amazing support. I'd say, I mean, pretty much all the classes have a professor and an adjunct. People are pretty available, but more than that, I mean, so I was really nerdy, and before I got here, I kind of like created a wish list of professors I wanted to meet who had interests that intersected with mine. And I can tell you, I mean, the professors will go and they sit in their office and the door is open, go by, knock on their door and say hi. I'm actually planning a trip to the Balkans this summer, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of freelance photo and video work there. And I'm going and just hitting up the people who are experts in this area, actually, I mean, outside the J School as well, because, I mean, the entire university is an incredible resource, but especially here. Yeah, lots of support, so.
So you hit it, yeah, it's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Hi, my name is Annette, and I was born in Newark. My parents are Nigerian, but I've lived in Canada for the past like 12, 13 years. I wrote my question down so it's not fumbled. So what are the key skills you've learned with being in the real world of journalism? We know reporting is important, as mentioned, and we get that there are deadlines to meet, which is applicable outside of school as well. And we get that journalism is always changing, as with media. But what else should we be on the lookout for while we are here at school?
I do have one answer to that. I think while you do want to strive to be your best, one of the things that journalism has helped me personally to develop is you have to be okay with being okay sometimes. Sometimes a story doesn't work. Sometimes you have to move on from this story to a new one because it's not newsy anymore. You're constantly moving because new has a very short shelf life in terms of news. And so one of the things is, like, especially with computer programming, you're constantly doing maintenance and updating and fixing bugs and going back over stuff you've created. And so it's never done. But here you have to learn, sort of jumping off the deadline point, when something is done, when a project is done, when an idea is done. And one of the phrases used here, when to kill your babies, when something that you've worked on a lot just isn't working and you just have to get rid of it and start afresh. So I think that's one very valuable thing that journalism has taught me coming in.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much for your questions. We will be here to continue to answer them. Thank you, students. Our students are the best.
If you guys want to also contact us for anything, like, please do so. I did.
You guys want to just give out your email addresses?
Yeah.
Sure.
Quickly?
Yeah.
My email is really easy. It's Armando, ARMANDO, .Garcia @columbia.edu.
I didn't change mine, but my email address is srk2169 @columbia.edu, srk2169.
Yeah, and then mine is, I did the same thing Armando did, sarah.bellingham @columbia.edu, so sarah.bellingham. Yep.
And you can actually go to the Columbia website and type those names into the search function, and you will also find their email addresses that way.
Also that.
So thank you, everybody. We're going to start the financial aid presentation in about 3 minutes. So just stand up and stretch. I know it's been a long afternoon.
David, I'm going to log you off. No, I'm going to be standing up to start, and then we'll switch.
We'll check. Should be fine. It's here. I was just looking for it on the desktop. I don't see it.
It's okay. Let's just start from there. Thank you.
Yep. So, it's weird. Yeah, I don't know if you.
Hi. If we all can just have a seat so we can get on with the program. Thank you. Hi. Okay, I'm just going to start now with the not so fun part of the program. As I've mentioned, I'm Taryn Almanzar. I'm the Director for Financial Aid and Admissions, and this is my colleague, Edwin Isaac, Assistant Director for Financial Aid and Admissions. I know this is not the most fun and sexiest part of this whole open house program, but trust me when I tell you that if you have this information and you're able to plan accordingly, then you're able to get to what you came here to do, which to get the best J-School experience that you can possibly have. I'm going to take a little detour just so that I can grab your attention for 2 seconds. Anyone here has studied psychology? Yeah? Okay. Do you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yes? Yes? Okay. For those of you that might have taken psychology and fell asleep through it, or you just kind of buried that along the way, in Maslow's hierarchy of need, he says that in order for you to reach self-actualization, which in your case will be to graduate and become this wonderful reporter, you have to take care of your physiological needs. And your physiological needs, in this case, will be tuition, your fees, and your living expenses. So just hang in there with me, pay attention, and I promise you that if you do this now, once you come in here, you will be able to reach that self-actualization, okay? So with that said, I'm gonna try to make this as painless and as easy as possible. We will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end, so I will ask you to hang on to your questions, write them down as you have been doing, and then we will be opening it up, okay? So with that, we will be discussing what's the role of our office, other offices that you will be in contact with and who you will be hearing from. What does the bill look like? When is it due? What are the consequences of not paying on time? What are the different financing options? And then a timeline so that you're able to plan accordingly as you go through here. And of course, we'll have an opportunity for questions. So with that said, our office is commonly known as the Office of No. And that is because we have to follow federal regulations. So chances are that when you are requesting for, let's say, a student loan, or you want me to release information, we'll 9 times out of 10 say, according to federal regulations, we can do X, Y, and Z. The role of the university is also to determine the tuition and fees, to provide you guys with an estimated living expenses, and we'll get to discuss that in a little bit. We have to provide you with the bill due dates and penalties. So as I'm going through along, what will happen if you don't pay in time? It's not to scare you, it's because, again, I have to adhere to federal regulations. And we have to make clear what are your financing options. With that said, you're going to be hearing a lot the word cost of attendance. What is cost of attendance? It's comprised of 2 things, tuition and fees. And that's what you pay to the university. That's what I like to call the non-negotiable. That's what you need to have in hand in order to obtain your degree here at the J School. Then you have your living expenses. And those are what I like to call you're within your jurisdiction, you're living like a student, you're living frugally, and you want to have as less living expenses as you can. So within this range, where it falls living expenses, that's within your control, so to speak. And that is what is called the cost of attendance. Here are the estimated tuition and fees per program per academic year. For those of you who are in the MA full-time, it's about $61,000. MS full-time, $66,000. The MS part-time is about $37,988. For those that are in the documentary semester, that's an extra $11,876. With the dual degree, it's about $68,876. And we estimate that you're going to be needing approximately about $2,864 for your living expenses. And remember, this is estimated, and this is what we, when I say we, I mean the university says that a student spends on average per month. Rent is expensive here in New York City, so get roommates, try to bring that cost down. Utilities is about $342. Food is very expensive here. We pay very close attention to what you're spending your money on, and that Starbucks coffee that you may like runs about $5 a day, and if you calculate it into the next 10 months, that's about $1,200. So just pay attention to what it is that you're spending, and then we estimate that you're going to need another $494 of personal expenses. The different financing offices. There's us, the Office of, The Office of Admissions and Financial Aid, and we're located here in the J School, right in the lobby area. We're there 9 to 5. We're there to answer any questions that you may have. We don't claim to know all of the answers, but those questions that you may have that we cannot help you, will at least point you in the right direction. And as I always like to say, asking saves a lot of guessing work. So please do stop by, ask the questions that you have. use us as your resource. We're more than happy to help you. The Student Service Center, that's the office that will send you your bill. If you need proof of enrollment once you're here, that's the office that you will go to. If you have any questions regarding the payments that you will be making, that is the office that will help you. The Office of Cashiering, it's also located in Kent Hall, and they're the office that receive your payments. So if you want to make an in-person payment, if you want to hand in a check, that's the office that you would go to. So let's talk a little bit about the charges that will appear on your bill. There's going to be tuition, the fees, and for those of you that get university housing, depending on how you're going to be billed, sometimes they'll send it directly to your university student accounts. And if that is the case, you will see all of that in your student bill. The bills are emailed to you, so please pay close attention to your emails. Then you will also gain access to what it's called Student Services Online. And Student Services Online, it's the student portal. And in there, you will be able to see the classes that you register for, your charges, your payments. It's sort of like a one-stop shop place that you can gain access to at any point in time. Then we have the payment options. How can you pay your bill? You can use online or paper check, wire transfer, in person, remember the cashier's office where you can go in and pay by check or cash. What you are not able to use is credit cards or debit cards. So please keep that in mind. The university does not accept credit card payments. Let's go over now the bill due dates. For those of you who are here in the summer, it's Friday, June 10th. For the fall, it's Friday, September 16th. And the spring is Friday, January 27th. What are the consequences of late payments? Late charges will be added to your account. You cannot register for classes. And if you need transcripts or if that time when you're graduating, the university will not release your diploma or your transcripts until that payment has been received. And eventually they will send you to collections, which is an outside entity, an agency, in which they'll tack on their own expenses to whatever it is the amount that you owe. So let's go a little bit over some financing questions. I know you may have some questions regarding the bill. Should we take maybe let's take about maybe 2 or 3 questions that you may have regarding the bill and what it is or anything like that. Does anyone have any general questions? No questions? Okay, if you can go to the mic, yes, please.
And just to be clear, for when it says summer for the bill, that's specifically for the part-time student, or if you're going to be which wouldn't be the case now, but for documentary.
Hi. A question about the tuition and fees. Does the fee include the estimated student insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
The fees include medical insurance, health service fee, the transcript, which they call it now document fee, the technology fee. So all of those fees that we have on our website and that we've given out, that's going to be part of the bill.
Okay. Is the insurance required if you have your own?
You can request for a waiver. It's not guaranteed, but once you sign on as a student, they'll send you information on how to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a lot of people ask me about waiving the medical insurance. I think that's after you get the bill, which will be hopefully in July or August, and then you can go through the process of waiving the medical insurance.
Now I have questions about the financial aid. Like, is there any financial aid or scholarships that international students can apply? And if so, what kind of scholarship or financial aid are they?
Okay, we're going to be discussing the financial aid options and the different ways that you can pay for it. But for just very quickly, for the J-School scholarships, there was the J-School scholarship application that people had to submit. And if you're an international student, you had to submit documentation. But then there's also outside scholarships that you can apply for. Okay? Any other questions regarding the bill payments and when it's due? If you can go to the mic first. Oh, okay, you just want, got it. She just wanted me to go back one slide to look at the bill payments. If they can go to the mic, so that the students who are joining us via live stream can hear your question. And hi, I remember you.
Yes, okay, cool. I just talked a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Just really quickly, the $1,000 acceptance fee, that is part of the estimated cost and everything?
It is part of the estimated cost, but please note that it will not count against your tuition and fees. That is an enrollment fee that you have to pay in order to secure your place here at the J School.
Okay, so it's not included in it's not going to take 1,000, okay.
No.
Well, also to keep in mind, it did say estimated on there. The university will finalize the actual cost probably in late June, early July.
Okay, so let's move it along. And just so you know as well, if you have very specific questions that you do not want to air out here, or that you want to have just an individualized time, we will be available tomorrow during office hours. Okay, so let's talk about financing options. I get this question a lot from full-time students. Can I find work? Can I do a TA-ship? Can I do a graduate research assistantship? The answer to that, unfortunately, is no. During the academic year, your life will be consumed with the J School. The best way to think about it is that, yes, you will be sitting in a classroom taking classes, but for all intents and purposes, as soon as you walk in through those doors, you are treated as a reporter. You're given a beat, you're given assignments, you're given deadlines, and you have to work on your master thesis as well. So if you want to make the best out of your time here, if you are a full-time student, please do not count on working while you're here. There is the payment plan. Remember how I gave you those dates for the fall and spring semester, the one in September and in January? There is this option to enroll in a payment plan, which you can do either per semester, and what they'll do is that they'll divide whatever amount is coming out of your pocket of tuition and fees. You're able to divide it into 5 months per semester. So let's say, and we all wish this was true, let's say your bill was $10, right? And you have financial aid and loans and whatever the case may be for $5. Now you have $5 remaining that you have to pay. You're able to spread it out into 5 months so that you're paying $1 each month instead of having to pay $5 in September and then another $5 in January. There is a deadline for this. You are able, they're letting us know that you are able to sign up as early as June, but the first payment, and you have to sign on by August, early August. Scholarships. Under scholarships, we have 2 categories. We have the J School Scholarship, which is based on the scholarship aid application and documentations and the free application for federal student aid. Just so that you know, every single dollar, every single award that we made is based on donations that are given to the school. What that means is that each fund comes in with awarding restrictions that we have to adhere to and that we can then award out to you. At this point, we have awarded all of our scholarship aid funding that we have available. If at any point that changes, we will be sure to allocate the funds and let you know if we were able to either increase your scholarship or offer you a scholarship award. You also want to start looking into, if you haven't already, into outside scholarships. I cannot emphasize this enough. Do your research. There's tons of funds out there that you can apply for. There is quite a significant number of organizations that are offering students funds to cover their cost of attendance. We start you off with a listing on our site, but it's in no way, shape, or form comprehensive. We urge each and every single one of you to do your own search. The way to do your search is to think of yourself as this pie that's made up of different elements. Yes, you are a journalist. Yes, this is what you want to do, but there are other things that make you who you are. Your citizenship, your areas of interest, demographics, your financial status, whatever the case may be, and then just do your research. Just keep in mind there's 3 ways for you to know if an organization is a legitimate one. A legitimate organization will never ask you for your social security number or any personal identifier, will not ask you for any payments whatsoever for you to apply for their scholarship, and they will never ask for any bank documents or credit cards or anything like that. So with that said, I'll turn it over now to Edwins, and he will go over the student loans options.
Okay, so again, my name is Edwin Isaac, the Assistant Director of Financial Aid and Admissions. I'll talk to you about your federal and private loan options. As far as your federal options, in order to be eligible, you have to be a citizen or permanent resident, enrolled for at least 6 credits, which shouldn't be a problem if you're in any of our programs, registered with the Selective Service, and also any of your prior loans cannot be in default. All your prior loans should be in good standing. Okay. The first type of loan is your federal unsubsidized loan. It's a guaranteed loan as long as you complete the FAFSA. You see there's a origination fee and the interest rate. The origination fee, what that is essentially the government taking some money from it right from the beginning. The current interest rate is 5.84. So what that means is that $20,500 loan is actually in fact about $20,200, okay, because of that origination fee. Okay, what you see here is a timeline of a part-time student on your left. For that first year, they get $41,000 in loans. That's 2 allotments of $20,500. That first allotment is divided evenly between the summer and the fall. And in the spring, you get the full allotment of $20,500. The right-hand column, you'll see the second year of a part-time student. No unsubsidized loan in the summer term, but you get 1 more allotment of $20,500 divided evenly between the fall and the spring. Okay, so your 2 years, you get 3 allotments of $20,500. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that second summer. For MA and MS students, you get 1 allotment of $20,500. Divided evenly between the fall and the spring semesters.
I'm just going to interject quickly and let you know that for the federal student loans, in order for you to qualify for it, you do have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. For international students, unfortunately, this is not an option that is available to you.
Thank you. The second loan that the federal government will offer is called a federal graduate plus loan. Now, the first loan was a federal unsubsidized loan. That's a guaranteed loan. The second one, the plus loan, you have to pass a credit check. Okay, so you shouldn't have anything adverse on your credit history, and you should be all set with receiving that loan. It has a higher origination fee and it has a higher interest rate. That's 6.84%, which will, again, I think it's going to change towards the beginning of June. Towards the beginning of June, the interest rates will probably change. So we'll pass out some information once we get word from the government about that. The amount of the loan is the cost of attendance minus any other aid received. I think we'll have another example, but what that means essentially is, let's just say your cost of attendance, which includes tuition, fees, and your cost of living, let's just say that's $90,000. And let's say you received an unsubsidized loan for $20,000 and nothing else. That means you have a remainder of $70,000. Your graduate plus loan can be for that $70,000. So you have 70 in graduate plus, 20 in the unsub. That covers the entire cost of attendance. If you had a scholarship, in the same example for, let's just say, $20,000. Now you have $20,000 in the unsub, $20,000 in the scholarship. That's $40,000 worth of aid. If your cost of attendance is 90, that means you can get a $50,000 plus loan. Okay. A little bit about the process to obtain these loans. Number one is to complete the FAFSA. That's when we'll be able to determine all of your eligibility. If you completed a FAFSA and you did not receive an award letter with at least the unsubsidized loan, see me after this session, and we'll see why. Okay. After that, there are two other applications you have to complete. They're called the Master Promissory Note and the Entrance Interview. They're very easy. Probably take you about 15-20 minutes to complete both of those. The alternative to taking loans from the government is certainly to take loans from a private lender or a bank. You have to be enrolled in the program, which obviously wouldn't be a problem. If you are not a citizen of this country, you'll most likely need a co-signer who lives in this country. You have to have a valid U.S. Social Security number, and you should be in good credit, have good credit standing, excuse me. And again, it's similar to the Graduate Plus loan. You can borrow up to your cost of attendance minus any other aid that you have received. One thing to keep in mind is that the interest rate for private loans usually varies. That's one thing I didn't say about the federal loans. Both the unsub and the Graduate Plus loan are fixed rate loans. Okay. And that's what I was going to say on this slide. So again, both with the private loan and the Graduate Plus loan, you have to pass a credit check. The Graduate Plus loan is a fixed rate loan. Again, I think they're going to have new rates for the federal loans, but in June. But those will be fixed rates for the duration of your repayment. With the private loans, just keep in mind, you might see an attractive interest rate in the beginning. They might show you a 2 or 3% interest rate loan. But keep in mind, it might be a variable interest rate. So you need to make sure you discuss that very thoroughly with your lender and see how wide the range can be in the fluctuation of that interest rate. But there are students who do take out private loans. That's pretty much it. And then you can consolidate your loans once you're done here as well. I think you're up.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about timeline. Before May 1st, before you submit that enrollment deposit fee, which is non-refundable, make sure you have a set plan as to what it is or how it is that you're going to be paying for your tuition and fees and your living expenses. Review your credit history. Make sure that it's fine, there's nothing that is haywire, there's nothing that needs to be fixed. If you feel or if you think you're going to need a co-signer, this is the time to start approaching people and saying if they're willing to be a co-signer for you. Research outside scholarships and sign up for the payment plan once you receive your bill, if that is an option that you are thinking of pursuing. And also, try to apply for your student loans at least 90 days before the semester starts. Again, your aim should be that when you walk in through those doors, your financials are all in order, and you are able to focus on your school and on your reporting. So here are some timelines and some dates for you. If you're in the part-time program, we say try to have everything done in terms of your loan paperwork by May 1st. For the MS full-time, May 10th. For the dual degree with engineering, May 10th. And for the MA full-time, June 8th. And now we'll open it up for questions.
I'm going to grab the microphone first on behalf of our students on the live stream. Yes. First question from Temina. Can tuition payment be flexible?
Can tuition payments be flexible? Tuition payments are pretty much set. Tamina, if you are referring to the amounts, like I've explained before, that's what it's called, the non-negotiable. In terms of the deadlines, if you sign up for the payment plan that's when you will be able to divide it into either the 10 months or the 5 months if you're signing up for just one semester.
And Tamina, I'll email you some specific information about that. The next question is from Angel O. Young. How does the Graduate Plus loan determine cost of attendance, especially when the living expenses could be flexible? Edwin.
The plus loan doesn't determine the cost of attendance. You can borrow up to your cost of attendance. Now, if you are in a situation where your rent is more than what we estimated out to be, I think we had maybe 1,800, I believe, something like that, 1,800. Well, the total cost of living was like 2,600 per month, but your rent specifically was about 1,800. If your rent costs more, then you can bring in documentation, and we can make adjustments to your cost of attendance. Therefore, you can increase the amount that you can borrow. But always try to borrow as little as possible, okay?
Hi, my question is kind of random. I was wondering if our tuition includes like the Metro card, like operating with the subway and everything. Is that all included?
That's not part of the university bill, but it is part of what we estimate of your cost of attendance. So in other words, the university is not going to tell you, here's 110 or 120 or 300 for transportation. That's going to have to come out of your own expenses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just wondering.
Yes.
Hi, so once started the program and accepted and started attending the J School, do more scholarships open up throughout the year to J School students?
There's always that possibility that scholarships do open up. I get that question a lot, and I say the possibility always exists, because even as we're sitting here, our development office is knocking on donor stores and saying, donate, our students need it. So the possibility exists. The probability of that happening, it's hard to gauge. And then if the funding does become available, remember that we have to adhere to whatever the restrictions may be.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And also with that, outside scholarships are available throughout the year. There are deadlines that'll come throughout the academic year, and you should always take the time to review the outside scholarships that we have on our website and throughout the web. I get emails all the time, or they're forwarded to me.
Hint, hint.
And I like to disseminate that to you if I think you guys will be eligible to be recipients of those scholarships, and oftentimes you are, because you guys are the best of the best, and that's usually who they choose to receive those scholarships.
Hi. Does FOPSA offer any federal grants for graduate students?
Unfortunately, they do not offer grants for graduate students, and they do not offer subsidized loans for graduate students. Sorry. That's the answer.
Hi, my question is about, loan repayment. Could you guys talk about income-based repayment? Let's say after graduation, the first year, you're doing internships that are paying you close to minimum wage. What are the options to lower your payments based on what you're earning?
That's a good question. The government offers different repayment plans, and within that, it's the income repayment. And basically, what they will do is calculate your income, which sometimes if you're filing for federal taxes, they'll just grab that information from there with your permission, and then they'll estimate what your payments will be. In the example that you have provided, where you're saying, it's an internship that I have and it's paying almost nothing, or it's not going to be enough, the option does exist for you to stop making payments or not make payments while that is happening. They'll either grant you what it's called a deferment or a forbearance, but basically it's the same thing. You either stop making payments, or the payments can be as little as $50. Go to studentloans.gov, and there's the calculator, and there's the repayment calculator, which I think it's great and scary at the same time, because it'll ask you and say, okay, write in the total amount of student loans that you think you will be borrowing, estimate what you think or you're projecting your income will be, And then what they'll do is that under the different repayment plans, they'll give you a breakdown of what the monthly payment will look like, and then what the overall payment will be. One or two things are going to happen. Either you're going to say, oh, I can handle this. And I always say start off with the worst case scenario. So it's always that prepare for the bad, I can't even speak anymore. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Put in what you think is the worst case scenario and say, you know what, I think I'm going to have to borrow the full cost of attendance, and I'm going to be making whatever amount. And then you're going to see a breakdown. And again, one or two things are going to happen. You're going to say, oh, I can handle this. Or you're going to say, oh my God, wait a minute, I need to formulate another plan. So as scary as it may be, this is the time to do it. Again, it is studentloans.gov, and it's called the repayment calculator. And it will take you 2 minutes to do.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
With that, I just want to jump on that too. While you're figuring out how you're going to pay for this, you guys can all submit an application to see if you would be approved for a PLUS loan. If that's an option that you guys are looking at, but you're not sure about, you can still just submit the application for the PLUS loan, and we can give you a decision whether or not you'd be approved, just so you know if that's an option you're actually going to use.
And how long is the credit decision good for?
Now it's good for 180 days.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. I wanted to know, they talked about, possibility of applying for an MA program afterwards. Is there a limitation on the amount of federal loans you can take out in your lifetime or in a certain number of years?
Yes, good, excellent question. There is a limitation. It's about $138,500 for the unsubsidized loan. Remember, the unsubsidized loan is the one that's guaranteed, that as long as you are a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, in a degree-seeking program, register for at least 6 credits. Having said that, if you're going above and beyond this $138,000, you are able to apply for the Graduate Plus loan, which again, it's a federal loan, but they will be looking at your credit history to determine your eligibility.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. Apparently really tall today. Hi. I have a quick question on 2 parts of this, on the health insurance stuff and then on other loans. I have previous loans, and so I'm hoping to defer again continuously still. So are the dates for example, we have this May 10 deadline, and then we start in August. Can I start deferring my student loans at what point? And then second question, health insurance, at what point does that kick in? I turn 26 soon, so I've got this weird little window. And then lastly, can I consolidate my prior loans to these loans while I'm paying?
Okay, to answer your first question, you will be able to request a deferment, in-school deferment, when classes begin. So that first day of classes that you're here, you can either do one or two things. You can log into Student Services Online. Remember the SSOL, well, I told you that it's the student portal. And that's when you'll be able to get confirmation that you are here, and it'll be sent to your lender. Columbia participates in what it's called, what is it called again? I am blanking out, but basically they send out all of the information to the lenders and say the student is here, it's enrolled. But I always say it doesn't hurt, clearance house, that's what it's called. But I always say it doesn't hurt for you to be proactive and to send the information to your servicer that you are here. Then your second question was if you can consolidate the loans that you borrow from here. The answer is yes. As long as they are federal loans that you're borrowing, you will be able to consolidate that with your prior federal student loan. And then your third question had to do with health insurance, right? Okay, for the health insurance, I don't know. I think the best, you should contact health services. And they'll give you the guidelines for that and when you have to enroll and everything else. Let's take this offline, and I'll give you a direct contact person so that you're able to get the response that you need. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. First question, in terms of the Graduate Plus loans, what documentation do you need to provide to apply, just so I know when I'm getting ready to apply? And then I also have a question, so maybe I'll talk to you offline about waiving health insurance, whether that's a possibility depending on your current health insurance. And then also in terms of private loan entities, do you have recommended folks online just so we don't avoid loan sharks and that sort of thing? Yeah.
Yes. For the Graduate Plus loan, you do it all online. If you are interested in doing that, you can email us and we'll send you the link to it. And you fill it out, it should take you 5 minutes, if that. And then within 5 business days, we'll let you know whether the loan has been approved or not. So that's the step for it. And then the other question had to do, I'm sorry.
With the private loans.
Oh, with the private
recommended-
loans. Yes, the university has a list of what they call suggested lenders. They are suggested. You can borrow with any lender of choice. But I always say review what it is that the university was looking at when determining this suggested lenders so that you are able to avoid the loan sharks out there.
Sorry, one last question while I'm up here. In terms of consolidating loans, can you go into that process and talk about the pros and cons, just because I haven't done that before?
You will need to wait until after you're done with the program. The pros and cons of it, the pro is that you will have one payment, and that's it. And that's it's very convenient for most people. The cons may be the interest rate. If the interest rate that you had with your prior loan was lower, and this one is higher, then you might want to think about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions here. One from Somaya Malakian, who, if I'm not mistaken, is listening in from Tehran. Somaya would like to know, if I apply and get a loan now, and then I am awarded some outside scholarship, is it against federal regulations for me to accept the outside scholarship?
Not at all. And again, as I said before, there's scholarships available throughout the time that you'll be here as you keep winning them. And if you have loans, continually reduce those loans. That's what we suggest you do that.
Sorry, I'm trying to move this thing.
No problem, Christine.
Okay, also from Angel O'Young. For the PLUS loan, when would you receive the aid? Will it come by July, which is when I believe most people who are not from New York will be coming to start apartment hunting and such? Great question.
Excellent question.
Disbursement date.
Okay.
I got it. Don't worry about it. Our disbursement date is late July, early August. I don't have the exact date on top of my head right now. So it may not come in time for August 1st rent, but if you speak with your landlord, some may or may not allow a letter from our office to suffice. So if, for example, you're receiving a refund that's going to pay for your rent, but it's just not coming by August 1st, you can just let him know that and then come and ask us for a letter, a certified letter from us saying that you're going to get this money, just not by August 1st, maybe within a couple days after, and then but it's guaranteed that it's going to come, and oftentimes that will suffice.
Good afternoon. I was question for the income pays payment plan. So if you were already accepted for a federal student loan, should you subtract that from the number, or should it be the whole thing?
Just do the whole thing, so then that way you know exactly what you're looking at, because when you do apply for the repayment plan, they'll look at all of the loans that you have and then determine what you're able to pay.
All right.
Hi.
Hi.
So you guys might not be the right people to ask this question.
Okay.
And I think it's a little bit germane given that this number can change, but my undergraduate institution had a sticker price of $50,000, which at the time seemed shocking. This obviously is larger than that. Can you talk a little bit about how tuition is set, like what goes into picking that number?
Dean Souders. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. That is a very good question. First of all, it's set by the university trustees, and I'll just give you like a general answer to it. And it's taken into account the fact that there's a lot of expenses, if you will, that comes into being here. Faculty, administrators, all of that is taken into account. I know it's a very general question, and I wish I can stand here and say, well, it's this and that, but it's part of that.
Sorry, I should have stayed standing here. That is determined each year, right? So do you guys, when is like this price for next year finalized, or is the 66 number, is that firm?
No, that's still not firm. We're waiting for the university trustees to say this is it. I'm thinking it should be in May or early June, but we're very good at estimating what it is, and so we're thinking it's not going to be that far off.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is mainly about outside scholarships. As just coming out of undergrad and having worked for a while, I know how hard it is to pay back those loans. I'm wondering how much outside scholarship are your graduate students offered on average, and is it mainly just loans that they're taking out?
That's a good question. Our students are relentless in applying for outside scholarships. And when I tell you that they're relentless, they really are. Sometimes I see checks coming in as late as April of the year that they're graduating. I've seen checks as small as $200 and as big as $40,000 come across my desk. People have been knocking on foundations doors, on organizations, connections that they make. So I think that if you make this a priority, and I've seen that when students make it a priority and they make that a goal, you are a journalist and you're very goal-oriented and you don't take no's and you're always turning each corner and each rock, you are able to mitigate that your loans and the cost of attendance with outside scholarships.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just second that. I remember packaging a student with over $60,000 worth of PLUS loan, and in like August or September, the foundation gave them $60,000. It's like, I just canceled the whole loan. So take the time to be thorough.
Yeah.
Similarly, are outside scholarships usually applicable only to tuition or tuition and fees?
So whatever aid comes in first pays your bill. Okay, so let's say you're in the MS program, the cost, let's just say it's $60,000 for the year, so you get a bill for like 30 each semester. Any aid has to go towards that first 30. Beyond that, it comes back to you.
And it all depends on the foundation and how they're going to be dispersing and releasing those funds. Some foundations will say, we'll give you, the student, the check, and then it's your responsibility to allocate it towards your tuition and fees or your personal expenses. Some other foundations will say, no, I don't think so. Give me a name and an office where we'll be sending those funds to, and that'll be us. And basically, they're doing that because they want to make sure that you are in the program and that you are finishing it. And then they'll tell us whether it has to go specifically only for tuition and fees, or they'll say if it's already paid for, you can give it to the student to pay for their living expenses.
Edwin, you mentioned that the part-time students are not eligible for loans in that second summer. Can you expand on that?
I'm so sorry, I was going to get back to that. So the graphic that we showed was only for the unsubsidized loan for the part-time students. You had the first allotment divided between the summer, your first summer and first fall. You had that second allotment completely go towards the spring term. Then your last allotment went between your second fall and your second spring. So nothing there in your second summer. So two things. That first spring where you get that full $20,500, you don't need a full $20,500 to go towards your bill, so that you're getting a lot of that money back. So you can do a couple things. You can just reduce that unsubsidized loan for the spring, or you can take all of it and have the excess roll over into that second summer. Okay, so by doing that, you're using an unsubsidized loan for all 6 terms. What you could do is not take out that full amount in the spring and use what's called the PLUS loan for that second summer. You can use a PLUS loan for any term. Okay.
I see still that the look of question. All right, I'm going to try to rephrase this. Look at the summer and fall. That equals 20,500.
Right.
The federal government is already doing that for you. They're saying, we're going to split it out, 10,250 per semester. In the spring semester, they're saying, enough of this. We're going to give you the 20,500, and it's your responsibility to carry over and split it. So in a perfect world, it would be 10,250, 10,250, spring 10,250, summer 10,250. So in essence, you're getting the full 20,500 that is meant to be split between spring and summer.
Right, so it's not like you could reduce the amount you take out in that first spring and then take it out in the summer. You just have to keep it all out there and like manage it until the summer. Basically.
Exactly. Exactly. So what you would do if you, as Edwin was saying, if you borrow the full 20,500 of the unsub, your bill is not going to be that. So you're going to have this money left over, which some people, oh my God, I have money. No, you don't. That's for you to carry over and apply towards the summer.
So can we just leave that as a credit on our account? Like, do
You,
we even
if,
have to?
exactly. If you want to do that, remember how I started my conversation? As per federal regulations, you will have to let the university know. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you will need to let the university know that you do not want that money refunded to you and that they should keep it in your university student account. Okay? This is not intuitive, so please do feel free to stop by at any point and we'll break it down for you even further. Okay? So yes, again, if you can walk away with anything from here, just know that nothing is intuitive. There is no such thing as I should know that, I should understand that. There is no such thing as that, especially when it comes to the financing of it. So again, ask your questions, ask. Even if it is the same question and you're thinking about it in like 20 different ways, I do that. So any other questions that anyone may have at this point?
Are your office hours any different in the summer or?
No.
Okay.
We're there 9 to 5.
Quick explanation of the housing lottery for
journalism. For the housing lottery, I am not well versed in housing. We do have a housing liaison, Evelyn Corchado. She will have office hours tomorrow. Christine, you have information about that?
Housing lottery. Everybody should apply for on-campus housing. Why do I say that? Because you never know what's going to happen. Generally, our international students who live outside the United States are first up for housing. We get about 80 beds from, I really should turn around. We get about 80 beds from the university for student housing, which of course is not enough to cover the more than 300 students who are coming in the summer and the fall terms. We have made a decision that housing goes first to the international students, and we start with the international students who live the furthest from New York City. Why do we do it that way? Because the international students need to come into the United States on visas, and they don't get here soon enough to be able to find housing, usually. So the university housing will go first to them. There have been years when we've gotten to California, domestic students coming from California, and I can remember at least one year where a student who grew up on Long Island got a bed on campus. So that's why I say everybody should apply. You never know what will happen. The question was, how many rooms are available? She doesn't believe me. We usually get about 80 rooms. It might be 90 sometimes, but each graduate division at the university gets an allocation of beds, we get 80. So, does that include the apartment share? Right. You can apply for single housing, you can apply for shared housing with the university through university housing. You can also apply through university off-campus housing, which is separate. And that is what many of our students do. They get together on Facebook, they get together because they've met each other here at the open house. Somebody finds the apartment, a couple of other people jump in, but that's usually through university housing, or off-campus housing rather, sorry. Any other housing questions? Syracuse is much closer than Beijing. But apply in any case. Apply in any case. There was a question in the very back. Could you stand up and speak loudly? That is a question you should, well, excuse me, let me repeat the question, is how is the review done? At what point is it done? They start doing it after May 15th. Then they'll notify you then. There are people who make decisions. If there are slots that open up over the summer, then they just go to the next person on the list. They're doing it in date order. So submit your applications early. Other housing questions? Okay, let's go back to financial aid.
Any other financial aid or billing questions that you may have? Sure.
The slide with the amount for full-time master students, could you bring it back up again?
It's $20,500 and it's divided between fall and spring.
There was another slide later on, and it was 90,000.
That is the cost of attendance. Remember when Edwin, and now my computer got stuck. Let me see if I can find the slide. That was the example that he was trying to, that he was explaining. No, yeah, but I'm just trying to move. There. That's the slide, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can make this. All right, so that, remember, do you want to take this over, Edwin? Because you did a great job. She wants to know about the
I'm just trying to
97,000.
Just trying to understand the breakdown from how this, so the total cost of attendance for full-time Masters of Science students is total 97,000.
And remember, cost of attendance includes the tuition and fees,
Right.
plus the living expenses.
Got it. Okay. Okay. I thought that I saw it somewhere else where it was maybe around the 70 mark, or if this is for sure what it is. I'm just trying to get a general idea.
No, that's fine. Okay, remember that the only thing that the university will charge you are your tuition and fees.
Okay.
Okay? The living expenses, we're saying here is 31,000, but that's very personal.
I
We're
understand.
saying 31, but if you are living with roommates, if you are, you know, bringing your coffee from home, if you're bringing your tea, then you're cutting your cost there. So then it's no longer 31, it could be whatever your cost of living would be.
Okay.
So can that be 70? Absolutely, depending on your personal expenses. What it will not be lower than, it's the 66. In terms of the billing, if you have scholarships, if you have outside funding, then of course that's eating away at the tuition and fees. But the only thing that is pretty much set are your tuition and fees.
Okay, thank you.
Does that?
Yes.
Because I
makes
see what
complete
you were
sense.
trying to see, like, what is the actual number that?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
You're welcome. I know it's for our live stream.
Forgive me if you've already answered this, but the enrollment, the $1,000 enrollment fee, that's not included in that, or is it?
It's included in the 97,000 so that you know what your total expenses are, but it's not, you cannot borrow against it. You cannot have a scholarship be applied towards it because that's due before the academic year begins. So if we were looking at the straight number of when you actually enroll and step in as a student, that'll be 96,603. Make sense? Any other questions at all? No? Okay. So again, there are no questions that are redundant. There is no such thing as you should know. And again, if you're anything like me, you're going to think of 30 other questions that you should have asked, or you're going to think of clarifying questions that you should have raised your hands and asked for. So with that said, welcome to the J School. I hope I didn't turn all of you guys off. And glad to see all of you.